will run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in. Smokey is in scenic Copperas Cove, Texas, tonight, and so he will not be with us today. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak here on 365 Sports, and I know we'll talk about it later in the show and do it, but my sports day got off to a sad start, like most people, about Marshawn Kneeland, Craig, Cowboys defensive end who died in apparent suicide last night after Monday night. He recovered a block punt for a touchdown. He's one of the better defensive players, 24 years old, gone from this earth. Just a really, really sad story today in sports. And, it's one of those things, you got to check on people. You never know what's going on, but a really sad story to start off the day today.
Yeah, you're going right to right to the sad story out of the gates. Yeah, I don't know if this is the most exciting or fun way to start off. Definitely not. But yeah, it's a very sad story, and I don't really know what to say about it. Hadn't really thought much about this guy in general because he's not like a star player who we're all very familiar with. So I'd come across his name, a few times here and there, and then saw him playing in this recent Cowboys game, and then wake up to the news today. So there's a lot to that story. With a police chase and all sorts of just details, I guess, that are still coming in and being figured out. But certainly a guy who apparently had some, thoughts about suicide prior. So there's a lot, like I said, to sort through about like why were the police chasing him and what all occurred and things like that. But just on the surface level, it's very sad news and very ugly news. And you hate it. You hate seeing people taking their own lives or people being a place where they feel the need to do so. So I don't know what was going through his mind, a few hours ago at this point, but it's very sad. And there's a bit of a dark cloud over the Cowboys organization today.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of I don't want to say get out of the way, but like address it early on. We're going to talk to Mickey Spagnola later about it. He's always at the Cowboys facility anyway, so he can kind of give some insight on that. And I just wanted to talk to him about the trade deadline more than anything today, but we'll certainly talk about Marshawn Kneeland and that tragedy that the team is dealing with. But right off the bat, let's go ahead and get into our stories here. We did not get to this yesterday, Craig, but I do think it bears talking about. I don't often agree with Dabo Swinney on a great many things, but I do on this. He got stung by a questionable call against Duke for sure, and he was fined by the ACC and all those things for criticizing the refs, but he wants the refs held more accountable. And Craig, you and I and Soki, we've talked about this for a while. There's not a lot of coaches that talk about this because they do get fined, but I'm glad that someone, especially with the weight of Dabo's name, is bringing it up because they really aren't held that accountable that much. And I think holding them to more account or having all of that will be better in the long term that goes with the little things we've talked about a little thing, a big thing about getting rid of conference affiliations and just having the NCAA assign refs to games and all of those things. But your thoughts on what Dabo Swinney said about the refs and holding them more to account, because, when there are bad calls in games, it just kind of dissipates into the ether.
Well, I mean, for those that don't know what he's talking about, they lost to Duke 46-45. There's, I guess, in particular, a very controversial pass interference penalty on the drive that Duke went down and won the game, their game-winning drive. And he said that it was one of the worst calls he's ever seen, which that's nothing that a coach hasn't said before. But he did get publicly reprimanded by the ACC for his comments, got fined $10,000, or I guess Clemson specifically got fined $10,000 for violation of league policy for speaking out the way that he did. And a part of, I guess, what he said here, coaches get crucified, fined, players get crucified, held to this unrealistic accountability standard, but refs have zero accountability. They do, but it's behind a curtain. They get to go home and drink a beer and get on with their life and just leave the carnage left behind that affects a lot of people losing jobs. The system needs to change. So he's basically calling out for public accountability. And this was, not probably the only call in that game he felt that went against him, but that was the one that was really, I think, like the tipping point of the whole, I guess, feeling coming out of that game. He also went on to say they need to be full-time refs and it needs to be a job. There needs to be one leader and one voice. That's what it should be, number one. And then there should be public accountability, period. You can't criticize them. They're the only ones in the arena that have no consequences publicly. God forbid you get to pay a fine because you criticize performance, but yet everybody else can be criticized. It's a bad system the way it's set up, and he wasn't done. He said, with Clemson losing, and like I will say with him saying this after a loss like that, it does come across for a lot of people like just sour grapes.
Yeah.
And it would be better if it was a coach that had won a game close and then says, like, we almost got screwed, but we won. But I still got to say this. But when it's a guy who not just lost, but lost again for the umpteenth time, it feels like this season, it comes across as a guy he's just whining. And unfortunately for him, but he did also say that we've got gambling issues going on, people being suspended, all that kind of stuff, right? Refs are people too. It ain't just coaches and players. If they're a part of the game, then by God, they ought to be a part of the game. They ought to be a part of the they ought to be a part of the accountability. They ought to be a part of the consequences, not just behind some shadowy curtain. So there was Dabo definitely going off. There's like 3 paragraphs worth of things he said there. And I mean, I agree with him to an extent. I think he's probably taking it a little bit too far because he's in a position where it's really personally affecting him. And he's talking, I think, so much about himself and his staff as about anybody else when it comes to these outcomes of games costing jobs and things of that nature. And he's certainly feeling a heat right now. So I am not all the way with him on let's put him in front of the town square. And he's not quite saying that, but I think he'd vote for it right now if you asked him to. But I am all for accountability. I don't think we need to know addresses and necessarily even specific details about people, but I do think when there's something ultra controversial in a call that really doesn't make sense, that it would not hurt to have somebody answering questions after a game and at least give their explanation as to why, not the conference coming out and doing it all behind closed doors and, calling up personally and telling you, but not letting the rest of the public know. I don't think there would be anything wrong with that. And it doesn't have to be throwing specific people under the bus. It can be just like, hey, this was why this call was made and here's why. And if people still disagree with it, well, that's one thing. But, I've always been, and I still am, all for officials' accountability. I think he's probably a little bit more hardcore. And my main thing for a while now has been everything else and all this money pouring in and pouring out. You can't tell me that you can't afford officiating across the board. Don't tell me that the reason why there's not nationalized officials is because it's a money thing. F you and your money problems. Give me a break. Same school who says that turns around and then pays $50 million in a coaching buyout for a guy, right? So I don't believe it's a money thing. I won't believe that about anything anymore. If they really wanted to find the money, they could find the money. So it's more than that.
It's only a money thing in that you're bad at accounting.
Right. Yeah.
You're bad at let's have nationalized officials. And you're like, hey, guys, we're spending a lot of money on bad decisions we made. So we can't throw good money at that because we've already thrown bad money at something. Yeah, it's all an accounting thing. And I just think that, as this gets, he mentioned the gambling issues, as this gets more popular and gambling gets more of a part of it, you're going to there's a reason the NFL has a pool reporter that goes in. A lot of it is because of gambling and all these different things, because you have to shine a light on something. Right now, the NBA is going to have to find a way to claw its way out of a scandal, and sunlight is the best disinfectant. And they've had 20 years to kind of maybe fix this problem and didn't. So you don't want to wind up in this kind of situation if you're college football. And there's a lot more. The thing about professional sports is there's a few games compared to the amount of college games that can be really affected by bad actors in that. So I think, and how it works in the NFL is the pool reporter, forever, I think it might still be Todd Archer, who's with ESPN.com, the pool reporter for the Cowboys. When the Cowboys are at home, this Todd Archer. And so he will go around to all the other writers and ask them if they have specific questions for the officials. And then he will go into the room. It's him and the official and a camera, basically. And then he'll ask the official those questions. He'll get the answers. And then, and then they submit that report to the reporting pool. So it's not that hard to do. And then it's public knowledge, and it's pretty much a pretty minor thing to cover your ass. And I'm still not completely sure as to why they just wouldn't do that to start out before they even do anything else.
I don't have the slightest clue other than they're not the NFL. It's a totally different thing, and people want to keep making them the NFL in every way, shape, and form. I think this is actually one of those ways that it would make some sense and actually be positive for the game. But, I don't know. It's not a money thing. There's no such thing as a money thing in college sports anymore. Now, I do believe there are money things like Iowa State can't afford to have a $50 million football team. That's realistic, but I don't believe anybody when conferences as a whole say, oh, we can't pay officials any more than we're paying them, or we couldn't possibly not do it this way. It's like, yeah, you could. You just don't want to. And that'd be more money out of your pockets is probably what the concern is. But having officials be accountable, especially with all the money that's on the line and the stakes that are on the line, I don't see why anybody would be opposed to that. And it makes me kind of side-eye you if you are like, well, we don't need that. Well, why not? Why would we not need somebody explaining why they made a crucial call that may have cost a guy his job and about 100 other jobs as a result of that? Why can't a guy say, here's why I called that BS pass interference call against Clemson where Duke scores right afterwards and wins the game? Here's what I saw. And then you know what? If you don't have a good explanation, guess what? That's on you, which is probably why you don't want to do this, because there's going to be times where you have to actually answer for why you made a bad call. And maybe there's guys that don't want to do that. And you know what? That's where you still have to go, And that's where you leave the door open to people to want to speculate on if you're a homer for a conference or for a team or you're being paid off or whatever. And I think a lot of that gets overblown. People just overreact to bad calls. There are some people, man, I bring it up every time. I mean, we know the same people that we're talking about. They're like, they think every single game, every single week, the officials are against them. And it's like kind of bat-ass insane, honestly. The more I saw certain people kind of behave that way. So you'll never convince everybody that they're not like being called against. But when you don't have people owning up to it or seemingly afraid to have to explain the job that they're doing, it does make you wonder, like, why would you be opposed to that? And don't tell me it's because like you're going to get a death threat. Like I get that part of it, but
you're getting them anyway.
You're getting them anyway. So like, so at least you could explain. Maybe you convince the hitman that he's not going to do it anymore because he goes, you know what? Like that was actually a reasonable explanation. I don't know.
I also think that like it would shed more light on the fact that these are humans that make human mistakes out there. Refereeing a game, officiating a game is not easy. It's not easy at all. And I do think that some people think that it is, but it's not an easy thing to do. And there's a lot of chaos in the moment. And if you got up there and said, yeah, look, the back judge beefed that call, it's not reviewable. We're sorry, but missed calls happen. If that's the norm of understanding and there's transparency, I do think that it'll never go away because there's always going to be people, there's a whole, cache of Auburn fans right now that think that the SEC is against them when it's just bad officiating. Like there's no like, when Auburn left the room at the SEC meetings, they didn't like grab the other 15 and go, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. Like, there's no conspiracy. It's just they have gotten a couple of really egregious calls that go against them. And one of them was, Kirby Smart clapping in timeout after, an Oklahoma call that led to a touchdown and all these things. So they, invent this conspiracy theory in their head. Like, no, the officiating just needs to be better. And part of the way you can make it better is to make it more accountable. Bottom line. I think that's it. Like, there's no grand conspiracy. Now, I'm not ever going to say that there's not people that have gambling things, because we're seeing it right now, again, but, that can't be taken out of account, but that's the minority. If you want to really, clean this thing out, just kind of shed a little more light on it and clean some things up. So also you can't be like, oh, damn, here comes the ACC ref crew again. You're like, well, all right, well, what is that supposed to mean? No, it should just be these refs did a good job, they did a bad job, and grade them out and assign them to games. That's all it should be. Another note that we mentioned it yesterday, we didn't really get into it, but Verge Osbury no longer has the interim title on his athletic directorship at LSU. He is the full-time AD, at least for now. And but this was weird, Craig. I might need you to translate this for me. When asked about it, new LSU president Wade Rouse was on New Orleans radio, said, I removed the interim tag. He's the acting AD. He has my full authority to go find us a coach for the best job in America. So he still kind of is an interim AD, because he hasn't decided if he's going to be the full-time AD yet. But Verge Osbury is in charge of the coaching search. And maybe that's what he said to say, like, look, I'm in charge of the search. The AD's in charge of the search. Verge does not have an interim tag. This isn't going to be one of those things to help any prospective candidates out there wonder who they're going to be working for the next little bit. And the governor is not as involved as he says he is. Maybe that's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of confusion over this yesterday, and I saw a lot of people bringing back up the reporting about the Title IX scandal that they had at LSU that never really got blown up to be all that big, because they're LSU. Let's be honest about it. If it was a smaller school, that would have been way more in the news than it was, and it was conveniently not really out there all that much. There was some reporting on it, but it wasn't like staked out on campus for 30 days in a row like we've seen ESPN do before. And maybe they don't do that anymore, because it got to be so absurd after. I mean, it really turned into absurdity with their coverage of the Baylor story after a while. Like, it was, you would have thought it was, and it was very sensitive subject matter, and I was all for the coverage, but it became like strange the way it was covered.
It was very instead of news coverage, it was very tabloidy.
It was so tabloidy,
gossip raggy type stuff, where
every single thing that got mentioned got picked up and just ran with like it was complete fact, no matter where it came from, who it came from. Like, they took everything that was alleged and just ran with it as though it was like it happened. We have proof it happened, and now we got to tell you all about it, even though it was just like a line in a lawsuit, kind of thing.
Yeah, a line in a lawsuit about. I can't even remember what the number was, but it was like a large number, and they were like, "These are all football related." And you're like, "There's no way."
No.
It was
I'm not trying to relitigate all of that.
But
Baylor made huge mistakes, but I do think the coverage of that, when you really go back and you look at certain parties involved, there's especially years removed from it, very questionable things that were happening on the reporting side of things. And I think ESPN quietly kind of took care of some of those things, because there's some people that were on that story that you don't see all that often, and you haven't really seen since they reported on that story. But I mean, there was stuff there. It's just, you didn't have to turn it into anything other than what it already was, because it was already bad enough, but they took it to this new level. So anyways, my point is, they did that, and the LSU story got nothing, basically, in comparison. It was nothing.
Once Les Miles got kind of...
Well, Ed was involved.
And he was already at Kansas, But
Ed Orgeron was involved in at least part of the story, and, nobody says anything about it. It's just, oh, cute old Ed O. Let's hire him for a job in 2025. There's people pushing that, and it's wait a second. Anyways, I'm not, again, trying to relitigate that. There was a very clear, from a front row view, a very clear difference in coverage. Now, it was a different story to some extent, but if you're going to be serious about a subject matter, then be serious about a subject matter, not selective about the subject matter and when you take it as serious or not. So That all got dug back up, and I found that very interesting because there was a lot of people pushing back that were LSU fans clearly of like, well, you only care because Verge Osbury's black, or you only care because you don't like Verge Osbury. You don't care because you don't like the governor. And it was just very bizarre, the sort of reaction to this story. So it just seems like everything's a mess there right now. Like there's just all sorts of fighting across the board. And anytime somebody disagrees, it's because like it's this big picture thing when in reality it's just like something probably really minor. But yeah, I saw a lot of back and forth on this. And the most confusing part was whether or not he's the real AD or not. And as the last report that I saw, an LSU spokesperson told The Advocate on Thursday, so today, that Verge Osbury is the school's AD. It said the vice president of marketing, Todd Woodward, Verge Osbury, who was mentioned. The reason why I brought all that up is because Verge Osbury was mentioned in those Title IX documents.
Very much one of the incidents, I believe it was the Darius Geis one,
right?
Was he wasn't complicit in it, but he completely dropped the ball in his part of adjudicating.
He didn't do his part of the job. Now he was, I think, suspended and he got punished for it. So look, if you serve your punishment, you do whatever you got to do to serve your punishment. That's fine. But I'm just saying that got all like dug back up in the midst of this conversation. So when you sort through all of like the back and forth and the messiness of the LSU story, there was that statement today, as well as Verge Osbury is the athletic director at LSU. He has the president's full support to lead the athletics department and to identify the next coach to lead our storied football program. They updated the website today to identify him as athletics director. And that's pretty much where we are. So I think he's officially the athletic director, although they still left it open to interpretation, even with their statement and the website update. So who the hell knows what LSU is doing right now and who the AD is going to be. But we do know Verge Osbury is the AD right now, and it doesn't appear to be interim, and he is going to be hiring the football coach. And I guess we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, it's just a weird time right now at LSU, clearly, with not everybody on board with him and not everybody even understanding if LSU is fully on board with him or what parts of LSU are on board and how political this is, and like if this is the right move and who the next head, like there's just a lot of wondering right now about what's going on in Baton Rouge. And so, yeah, I still am not even any clearer with the statement today on whether he's going to be the guy you see 2 years from now, but I do know he's the guy right now.
Yeah. And look, LSU is they have a president now for like the two best jobs, or like let's take the four SEC jobs. Arkansas is the one with the most stable leadership and alumni that will give you a little bit of room to roam a little bit. Sam Pittman probably got about 2 years longer than most people thought he should to figure that out. Auburn, the minute things go badly, it's going to be it's going to crisis on the plains. Florida has a good athletic director in Scott Strickland. I mean, he's, doing great with the other sports. Football has evaded them for a while, but they don't have a president right now. And LSU has a president who's been on the job for a day, an athletic director who's just got the interim title removed, but is probably not necessarily the full-time athletic director. He just has to be the guy who helps hire the football coach, and a governor who can't shut up. And that's par for the course in Louisiana. So if you're just taking one of the SEC jobs, I might be going, look, what's Stillwater, Oklahoma like? This is,
yeah, I know you think that, but I disagree.
But what's going to happen is that, like, that would be my first thought of my mind of like, well, I know I wouldn't have to deal with this there. And then I'm going to have my agent call and they're going to be like, how much for this money? And be like, who's a damn good guy? Jeff Landry. Yeah. I mean, you'll change in a second.
Yeah. I mean, I know you want to keep kind of going back to, well, I don't know but like John Summerall's not going to think that way.
No,
like,
exactly.
And ultimately, if he gets the money that he wants and the NIL budget that he wants and the car that he wants or whatever else that he wants, then he'll go be the head coach at LSU. And if not him, it'll be somebody else. But it has turned into this like digging up of the past and just a lot of disagreements on who's in charge or who should be in charge and who is actually making the calls on things. And so that's really what we're talking about here is it's just kind of a confusing situation at a very critical time for LSU where they have to nail this hire or they are going to continue sliding backwards. And they're still at a point where they haven't really slid that far. They could jump right back next year and be totally fine. But if you make the wrong calls here, well, all of a sudden now you are finding yourself in a situation where it's a much deeper hole to dig out of, and who knows what's around the corner. So I think that's what's kind of got everybody a little bit uneasy and on edge right now. And they could definitely be better about delivering their messages. But I ultimately think that if there's a head coach out there that wants a great job, he's still going to go to LSU, and it's not going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to have to deal with that governor. It's like, dude, you can be insulated enough to avoid the governor for the most part. I especially think after this very public firing and him getting his 10 minutes in the sun to, flaunt for the people of Louisiana, I don't think we're going to hear a ton from him.
Like, he got rid of the AD he didn't
right,
like.
exactly. He got what he wanted.
That was probably what it was most about. The one thing that he did, I will say the one thing that the governor did is he definitely cost them more. Even though he went out and said, like, I'm doing this to save you money, in no way did you do that.
No, because he just lied like every other politician about, we'll be the ones that change things. I don't know if he exactly said that, but he inferred that they were going to put their foot down and not give these extravagant contracts, these extravagant buyouts. And I call BS on that because, as I explained yesterday, that's how you would not get who you want.
Yeah.
Because you say that and Florida will go, Kiffin said no. All right, we'll go get John Summerall. And guess what? We will give him the huge buyout that he wants, and we'll have him as our head coach, and we'll beat LSU. And so, the governor did what any politician does and said things that people wanted to hear, but is he actually going to act on that? Probably not, because you know what? It would cost LSU the best football coach they could get, and that matters way more. And that would cost him his job if he were to screw that process up.
Yeah, that's what he's done is he's messed up the financials of this. So if he insinuates if his marching orders for Verge Osbury and the committee are whatever you do, don't give a Scott Woodward buyout, then they're going to be limited in their scope. But if he doesn't really have those marching orders and it was just hot air, which is more likely, then they're going to get who they want. But that's the thing that I wonder about.
Dude, if there's any program in the country that's going to say we're going to do whatever we can to win and to go get the best, it's LSU. I don't think there's any question about that. And there's others that would be tied with them at the front of the line. But LSU is going to go get the best football coach, and they're going to give him the contract that he wants to ensure that no matter what that governor says. I don't care how in charge he thinks he is. Ultimately, the voters of Louisiana and the fans of LSU are going to be the ones that dictate whether he remains governor. So he's going to get out of the way. They're going to get the coach they want, and we'll see if it's the guy that actually puts them back in position to be where they feel they should be.
Yeah. Another coach who's trying to get back into the fray, Pat Fitzgerald, was on the College Game Day podcast today, and he was talking about the settlement he received in August. He had sued his former employer, Northwestern, for $103 million. Don't know what the settlement was for, but they reached a settlement agreement. He is now back in the water. He's trying to coach again. I think there's a couple jobs that would fit him really well. Stanford and UCLA really jump out to me as places that Pat Fitzgerald could go and have an effect. He was at Northwestern for 17, 18 years, something like that. And then, of course, was fired as part of the hazing scandal that was going on with Northwestern football. It was proven that he didn't know anything about it. Now, I will say on the back end, and I say this, and I said it before, okay, you didn't know about it, but that's also a reason to fire you, that you've got these things going on in your football program that you don't know about it when you're supposed to know everything, or at least punish him in some way. Now, maybe Northwestern took it too far, and clearly, because he essentially won this lawsuit with the settlement, he feels vindicated, and he didn't have anything to do with the hazing. He just didn't know anything about it, and then it was, it got out there, and they decided to let him go. But he's ready to coach again. I think, again, like I mentioned, Stanford, that's a good fit for him. UCLA is a good fit for him. I'm curious to see if he does get that job this year. And just going back to what Steve Sarkisian said, where are these coaches going to come from? Well, Pat Fitzgerald, especially this year, has a really good shot to get a job.
I haven't thought too much about him and his place in this coaching carousel, but he won the defamation law. What would you call that? It's the
wrongful termination
lawsuit. That's what he won. Because I get your point about, there's no excuse to not know. And that's what we heard, going back to ESPN reporting, actually, is that every head coach should know everything. And if they don't, that's on them. And that's, we take that directly from them and their very own statements and reporting. So that's applied when convenient, yes, for them. But that's their own words. And so, from that standpoint, then Pat Fitzgerald deserved to be fired, because even if he had absolutely nothing to do with anything, he didn't know and he should know as the head coach. Now, I do think there are situations where you probably don't know about certain things that are going on. I think when they escalate to there's multiple people and multiple assistants, well, then you should be somewhat culpable because you clearly have the wrong people you put in leadership positions that are not being leaders the way they're supposed to be. And so even if that's behind your back, like you still chose those people to put in those spots. So you are culpable for that. But yeah, he won the wrongful termination lawsuit, and throughout the entire investigation and the independent report and all the things that were attached to that, like the original independent investigation and all the information that followed, yeah, he wasn't, from what I recall, thought to have been involved in anything. So good for him. He got his name cleared, so to speak, although I'm sure word didn't get to everybody in the world. But for the people that need to know, he did get a bit of vindication there and is not being painted with a scarlet-like letter, so to speak, as being a part of this big scandal because he won that wrongful termination lawsuit. So, yeah, I mean, him in the mix for some of these other jobs, I could certainly see that. I don't think there's anything holding him back from that, at least that I'm aware of, unless there's some reporting that is out there. I will not claim to have followed his career super closely, so I've gotten constant Pat Fitzgerald updates. But, yeah, I mean, throw another name into the hat and we'll see with all of these jobs where this all falls. But I could see him, Stanford taking a look at him or someone along those lines. One of the smaller jobs, obviously. He's not going to Auburn or LSU. But, yeah, there's got to be some guys like him is the point I'm trying to get to is there's got to be just like some old veteran coaches that we're not talking about on the top of the carousel list that aren't Lane Kiffin or John Sumrall because there's like 5 names being mentioned for like 11, 12 jobs at this point, and there's got to be more than that. So where are they coming from? It's probably going to be guys like him.
Yeah. Well, look, let's just say I'm going to throw Western Kentucky out there. Say Tyson Helton gets a Power 4 job that opens up. He's a really good coach. I mean, would you hire like a Mike Gundy or a Pat Fitzgerald? Maybe if they're willing to come there. Mike Gundy, I think Mike Gundy's going to be a really interesting guy. He's not going to get a Power 4 job, I don't think.
I don't think he should have one right now necessarily. No.
But I do think that if you lose your coach, like if you're New Mexico and Jason Eck leaves, like do you hire a Pat Fitzgerald or Mike Gundy maybe? And then knowing that, you're going to be a stepping stone for if they prove themselves again. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't think that Mike Gundy doesn't deserve a job, but I do think he'd be better off working his way back up the system a little bit, even though at his age, I'm sure that's like the last thing you want to do. He doesn't have to start off at like the bottom.
Dan Mullen's doing it.
Yeah,
so.
But yeah, I mean, if you really want it bad enough, you got to do what you got to do, right? So if Mike Gundy really wants to coach, he may not, he's definitely not getting an SEC job. There's not a Big 12 job out there for him to get. He's not. I don't think he's going to go to the Big 10 or something like that. I don't see that.
Yeah, Wisconsin's not calling him up.
No, I don't think so. So yeah, I mean, his options will be limited. So yeah, there's going to have to be some veterans, and of course there will also be those assistants, those coordinators that are the hot new names, the guys who are on the come up. And there are some young coaches that we've talked about, especially here in the state of Texas, that are armed and ready to start moving on up, like Eric Morris and possibly a GJ Kinney or somebody like that. But the thing about Pat Fitzgerald is, I mean, he was at Northwestern for a very, very long time. And ultimately by the end of it, I think he was a bit above 500, which is great for like a 20-year tenure at Northwestern. But the last few years, I mean, they definitely were starting to slide downwards. So, I don't know how he's really viewed is what I'm getting at. Being at a place for so long, that's very kind of a specific job, and not having like resounding success, but having success for that spot, but being out of the mix for a couple years when things, even since he was last in coaching, have changed pretty dramatic. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but yeah, I'm sure there are people doing their due diligence.
He's a really smart guy, which is why I would like UCLA to me makes sense in that part of their thing is they need somebody who knows how to deal with all those
UCLA
structure. Like
I said, no Big Ten. I'm thinking about them still with the pack sometimes. So yeah, I mean that UCLA, would actually make some sense.
Yeah, Stanford makes sense because Northwestern and Stanford, have similar academic goals with them. So that makes sense. Although I don't think he's going to be the Stanford coach. I mean,
no.
If I'm guessing, I think
I wouldn't think so. But
who
knows? I don't know what Andrew Luck's Christmas list looks like.
No,
what he's looking for. Hell, at this point, I feel like watching him. He want to be the head coach.
He is as enthusiastic as a person on the sideline as you're ever going to see.
I'm all for it, man. It's like it's quirky as hell, but it fits Stanford, and it gives them like a little something that just makes them fun to watch. Seeing him every few moments when they've made a play of some sort, he's just there with his his nerd look, you know, and just being the whatever his official title is. I don't even remember exactly.
GM, I think.
GM of Stanford. He's just there gracing the sidelines, and it's fun to see. It's fun to see how enthusiastic and how much fun he's having with the whole process. It always bothered Texas fans that he was from Houston and didn't go to Texas and he went to Stanford. But if you ever held that like resentment in your heart of like, or question in your heart, watch this nerd jump around the sidelines at Stanford and tell me he's not perfect for Stanford. Well, I mean, that was also part of a stretch of misses by Mac Brown and the quarterback recruiting. RG3 was another one of those. And they wanted Johnny Manziel after the fact. And I'm sure there was a couple of other names there. But, I think even Texas fans, as great of an education as that is, nobody's blinking when you say you're going to Stanford. Yeah. I mean, everybody respects that. And I think even a UT person with as good of a degree as they have, sit there and would tip their cap over in Stanford's direction and understand of the choice that he made. So, we'll see. Pat Fitzgerald, just one of the – I mean, there's a nice eclectic mix of old coaches who are sitting out there, he and Mike Gundy and the like, new guys on their way up. And then I'm sure there's probably some names that have been mentioned somewhere or another but aren't quite mainstream names that they could take one of these jobs. And there's going to have to be because, again, there's like – 10 plus jobs opened up. So
there's probably going to be 10 more before the jobs that guys leave to go take those other jobs.
Right. Yeah. Cause then there's going to have to be jobs that open up as a result. So I mean, what are we looking at? For example, the one that comes to mind initially, and I don't know that this is going to happen. And I think everybody's kind of 50-50 on it right now. And I'm sure maybe in Oxford, they're 90-10 or something, but like, what if the Ole Miss job opens up? Yeah. That's going to be a big domino. And then if it doesn't, then whoever ends up taking the Florida job, where are they coming from? And what job do they leave open? So, the carousel is just getting started.
Yep. When we come back, we'll finish the rest of our news rundown. And at 4 o'clock, Max Olson of ESPN.com joins us. This is 365 Sports.
Coming up on Thursday, November 13th, Lunch with the Legend featuring Jim Turner at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Join the Baylor family as the Texas Sports Hall of Fame for the Lunch with the Legend series featuring Jim Turner, sitting down with the voice of Baylor, John Morris, sharing stories and memories from their historic seasons. After the program, enjoy a tour of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, a museum celebrating over 400 Texas legends at home to pieces of 6,000 sports memorabilia. The cost is $15 a person. Faculty and staff at Baylor, $5. Select table of 8 is $200. Lunch with the Legend, Jim Turner at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame on Thursday, November 13th from 11:30 until 1.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
You don't want to miss our best price deals during the Black Friday sales event at Allen Samuels. This month, you can save big on the truck you've been looking for, like the new Rams. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, Ram trucks give you that first-class feel. With premium options like luxurious leather trim seating, surround view cameras, and more. Shop our great selection in-store or online today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's football season, and we can create your outdoor tailgating spaces that is actually a part of your home. Bifold doors that tie in the inside and the outside, and you can gain anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 square feet living space, all while taking in the big game, poolside. Call us at Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, where we can create your unique tailgating space.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul and Craig Smoky out for high school football today. And Craig, I'm not all that familiar with it. I've heard of it. I know that there's Poly Market and Kalshi that are prediction markets, and I don't know, like I guess it's just you can bet on anything now legally, but Kalshi has been sent a letter by the NCAA concerned about their what they do and the contest integrity and contest participants. And this is things like this. Prop betting markets are big on Kalshi. That's pretty much all it is, because it's prediction markets. And yeah, I don't know how to get deep into it, but I did find it interesting that this is another gambling related thing that the NCAA has to deal with that is beyond DraftKings or FanDuel or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy to explain it really either, other than they just refer to it as a predictions market type of thing. So you can put out do you think this happens? And you bet, yes, it will happen, or buy a contract that, and look, this is so out of my realm, but yeah, it's basically a predictions market entity. So it's loosely gambling, if not really gambling, under the guise of being described as loosely gambling, because nobody quite knows how to describe it.
They say it's commodity futures trading,
and they say that because they want to get around gambling, which is litigation or legislation or any of those things. So yeah, we're not gambling, even though everything says gambling is what this is.
Yeah,
but they're arguing that it's not because they don't want to be treated that way.
Yeah, we're just like oranges,
right?
Yeah,
yeah. So it doesn't sound like a business with a lot of concern about college football's integrity.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't get the whole betting thing. It's never been. I've got plenty of vices, and I've had plenty in my life. That's never been one of them, and I don't think it ever will be, because it's just never been an itch that I've had. And I get, for some people, it's a major itch that they have all the time, to the point of being a problem. I know that for a lot of younger people, younger than me, which is most everybody now at this point, they've just grown up with it and been raised with it, whereas I was like the last bastion of the people raised where gambling was not involved in every facet of pro sports. And for that, I'm thankful. Like, when I think about, man, what I would love to restart it, and been a 2000s baby, and I look around, I'm like, hell no, I'm so glad I grew up when I did, dude. I don't want to be young that bad, or I'd want to go through all the crap like this. But man, I remember sports pre-public gambling, and it was kind of great. And now it's just, that's all it's about, basically, whenever you look around. And So here's somebody else trying to get involved or is somewhat involved and is trying to skirt the rules as best they can. Shocker. And I don't know where any of this goes other than the NCAA has just got more things to be concerned about. But what's new? And that list is already long. So here's another thing on it.
No offense to the young fellers in here, but I do think that you, Garrett, and I did grow up in the most awesome time.
Well, you know what? Everybody says that though.
But but I mean, comparatively, things seemed easier. And I don't think I'm not one of it was better back in my day, but
I like the people who say the 90s were so great. Everything's so peaceful. It's like the Oklahoma City bombing and the Waco standoff, like Ruby Ridge, the Gulf War, 9/11 right after
Kosovo.
That. We had plenty of trauma and tragedy and things as well. But I do especially see it as people get older, they start to really get that nostalgia shot. And they're like, the 50s were the best. Like the 50s were chaotic as hell. Are you crazy? Like the 50s were, you're watching Donna Reed and you're thinking that's how it was. And it's like, no, that was the cover for how things actually were. Things were not all rosy and black and white and great. People were hiding alcoholism and we don't have to get into it, but you know what I'm talking about. Like the 50s were not some dreamy Nick at Night show. They were far from that, but but people think that was great, or the people who grew up in the 60s, and we know the 60s were freaking crazy. So I think there is some nostalgia, but where you're coming from, I could see where, we had the last sweet spot where it wasn't as crazy as it is now.
Yeah, it was we had most of the things that we have now. They weren't as advanced.
Well, we still were local. We weren't everything's for everybody. We were in our town, and that's really where things kind of stayed.
Yeah.
Or you called people and they spread, and eventually instant messenger kind of helped spread things further, but nothing like now, nothing compared to now.
Yeah. That's the worst thing about the internet, because if there was a crazy dude in your town that wrote erotica about Scooby-Doo, he would only know he's the person who does that.
Yeah. Now he's the front of the New York
comes
Post.
Around exactly. Now he's oh, well, there's millions of me.
Now he's got to go fund me because he's got to suddenly pay bills for something or another.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy that stuff.
So
happens.
The point is that we grew up without sports gambling being involved, in me and taboo, if anything, and now it's just so inherent. It's in the fiber of everything, and so I hate that. And I know that young people don't know any different, so it doesn't really matter or register to them. But I am glad I grew up when I did. And I don't know what this Kalshi thing is going to be. I've seen commercials and stuff, but it's just more
Poly
gambling.
Market is another one that's just like it.
Yeah, it's just more gambling on sports is what they're trying to do. It's just a different way of phrasing it or a different way of doing it, but it's all the same thing. So it's just another company that college sports is trying to be.
You can bet on elections, which really friggin' scares me.
Yeah, I mean, you can bet on elections and probably pretty much anything. And they call it a prediction market, and it's similar to prop bets is what I was reading earlier. So will Joe Smith be the next president of the United States? You bet yes, you predict that yes, and that's kind of what it is at the simplest level. So does nothing for me, but I know for a lot of people it obviously does, and I guess this is just another thing again that they're going to have to be on the forefront of trying to combat before it overtakes everything and gets too ingrained to where it's a problem that's too difficult to root out. But this is going to be something, gambling and athletes, that they're not going to get away from ever again. Yeah, pro or college sports.
Craig, are you DraftKings has a lot of commercials everywhere, and if you watch ESPN, they're about to have a whole lot more, because ESPN has ended their partnership with Penn early, who helped them found ESPN Bet, and they're now shifting to DraftKings exclusively. So DraftKings is going to run all of their betting stuff, and it's going to be presented by DraftKings with DraftKings experts and all that. So if you're a FanDuel person, sorry if you're in luck watching ESPN.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, good for them.
Yeah,
I guess. Well, congrats to all you people making money. I feel like that's what companies are constantly telling me, to root for them and applaud them for these business deals and the money they're making. So, yay, go DraftKings and ESPN.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, now to some actual football news. Notre Dame and Auburn have never played in football, Craig. I did not know that until today. And the only reason I do know that is because now they have scheduled a home-and-home 2027 in South Bend, 2028. On the Plains in Auburn. So Notre Dame and Auburn will play for the first time ever in 2027.
Article idea for somebody out there, because I don't have, well, I guess I got a platform I could do it. I just don't really want to do it.
It takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time, but like, what are the here's a question. And chat, shout out to chat. Sorry, I usually, especially when Smokey's not here, because we kind of just roll into things, try to say what's up to chat. But what is like the most epic matchup you could put together of two teams in college football that have not played each other? Like, what would be the biggest, like the two winningest programs that have not played each other? I wonder who that would be. But this is cool. I'm all for new matchups. I'm all for big teams playing each other. I'm all for crossover and as exciting of games as we can possibly get. So kudos to Notre Dame and to Auburn for doing this. Now, I hope for Notre Dame's sake and for Auburn's fans' sake, they don't announce when they're about to go back to Auburn that we're moving this game to Atlanta like they did with the Baylor matchup this past month. But that ought to be a really cool experience. Auburn fans, I'm sure, are already stoked about being able to go up to South Bend and have a reason to do so. And same for Notre Dame going down to Auburn to get a little taste of the action down there in Alabama. So
these are the things that can be good about the 9-game, the 9-game conference schedule with
and not having to fear losing more than one game. You can actually go let's play Notre Dame because F it. We got to lose a couple to be knocked out. So this could be one of them. And if we lose more than that, well, that's our fault.
Yeah, exactly. It'll make it better. The thing I think it can, the two things I'm hoping it does is more Auburn versus Notre Dame, teams that never play each other, that you can just see different things. Or on the other side of that coin, dead rivalries, bringing them back. Bring back Bedlam and bring back the border war and do that. Maybe not every year, but in the cycle of things. I don't know if they can do Bedlam every year or border war every year, but I do think that if you did 4 years on, 4 years off, you could do it. 2 years on, 2 years off.
Yeah, and I think there's people that still, if you poll, would be against Bedlam because it's just an open wound. It's a little too fresh, but they need to play each other. Come on. What did you not learn from A&M and Texas? And I understand they're now in the same conference, so that's the only reason why they're back playing each other. But that was ridiculous that they weren't to begin with. And so you're kind of dealing with that chapter of this with Bedlam right now, which I think a few years down the line, they'll all realize this is stupid. We got to play each other.
Texas's thing was, it's weird. Texas's thing was, they're not going to do it because A&M's not going to do it. And then A&M's thing was, we don't need Texas anymore to help us. We're in the SEC. We don't need them. We don't need them. We don't need them to be part of our life. And they were trying to they thought that them being in the SEC would eventually choke out Texas and put them in the catbird seat, which guess what? Didn't happen. Mm-hmm. It's never going to happen. The best you can do is hope to be, even with them most years.
Yeah. I think just in terms of the rivalries that you want to get back Bedlam, I think with the new SEC schedule, that's doable, but we'll see because there is some bad blood there. And I'm all for the traditional rivalries coming back to the point of where they make sense. I know there's some that will go to the wayside that they just aren't in line with college football the way it is now. Baylor's not playing Texas on a regular basis, or Texas Tech and Texas A&M on a regular basis, or things like that. You're not going to get all the regionality back, but there are places where you can get it back. And for when you can do that, just in general, I want to see good college football programs play each other. So, hey, Notre Dame and Alabama, no history whatsoever. I don't give a damn. Or Notre Dame and Auburn, no history whatsoever. I don't give a damn. Yeah, let's watch you play. I want to see that first-time matchup. And I did a little Google, and AI is never 100% right, it seems like, because they tried to tell me that Michigan and Alabama had not played, according to one source, which is not true at all.
They just did a few years ago.
They just did a few years ago. They played a handful of times. So, again, always double check whatever you use. But I think the best I could come up with after narrowing some things down was that Florida and Wisconsin might be two of the winningest programs to have never played each other. And I double checked, and they have not played each other. Now, that's not super sexy, but that's an example of a pair of teams that have never played. And I'm sure there's some other ones that if I put a little more work in, I could find. But I would be curious to know, what is the biggest matchup you could put that would be first time ever? And for right now, we'll put a little in light pencil, Florida, Wisconsin is what I was able to come up with. Yeah, okay. But I'm sure there's something else.
I just put in teams Alabama has never played, and Clemson and Florida State are two of them. And no, they played Clemson in a national championship game,
right? Yeah,
for crying out loud. Maybe they don't want to remember that because that's one of the ones they lost. But okay, right before we go, we'll just do. Well, we've got two little defensive statistics ahead of the Texas Tech BYU game I wanted to throw out there. Max Olson is next. I talked to him earlier today. He wasn't available at his normal time. But Max Olson's stop rate is out, and Ohio State still number one. San Diego State, who is absolutely ridiculous on defense, just crazy. And Sean Lewis is an offensive head coach by nature, so he's hired a hell of a defensive staff that I'm sure wherever he goes next, they hope that he brings them with them. And number 3, Texas Tech. Oregon's dominating on defense. Iowa, Indiana, Utah, Toledo, Texas, and James Madison rounding out the top 10. But there's your stop rate for this week. Tech is up there at number 3. BYU is not in the top 20, even though they do have a good defense.
I was kind of surprised to not see them there, but I don't know like every little metric that goes into it. They get a lot of stops. I mean, they also are pretty active and disruptive, and so that's going to be a hell of a matchup this weekend. We've talked a good bit about. I really don't think that there's a clear-cut winner, but I do default to Texas Tech playing at home. I definitely think they're the best team that BYU has played at this point without question. Even though BYU has played Utah, I think Tech is better than Utah, and they beat Utah, so there was that. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a heavyweight fight, man. This is going to be great stuff, and I'm really much looking forward to just kind of what eventually dictates this. Is it, Baron Morton being an ace, or is BYU going to be able to put pressure on him and get to him and rattle him and turn him into, a guy turning the football over? Is Tech going to be able to run the football with Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey and their great weapons? Or is that BYU secondary going to be able to shut down guys like Terrence Carter and Caleb Douglas? And I mean, there's so many different ways to look at this game, and there's strength on strength, and there's not a lot of weaknesses between the two. And this is going to be freaking awesome. Like, I cannot wait. I'm even more excited than I was for Holy War. I'm more excited than I was for Tech Utah. This is with much bigger stakes than those games, because now we're getting towards the end here, and there's only so many spots to slip up. So yeah, this is going to be awesome. BYU not on this list, but a very good defense that will be a huge challenge for Baron Morton and the Red Raiders coming up this weekend.
Yes. By the way, Craig, I am on Winsipedia right now, and I just put in Alabama, and they have it by their record versus conference teams, and they've only played 12 of the 16 Big 12 teams, of which I'm going to have to figure out in the break. I'll go through and see. Like, they've never played Kansas, although that's not exactly a titan of a matchup there. But
no, I just guessed UCF. They actually have played one time.
0-1.
Yeah, UCF's 1-0 against Bama.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, so
UCF owns Bama.
Yeah,
they want Bama because they own them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that could be something. You know what? Maybe we do this together. We split it up.
Research.
And just do a little research and figure it out.
I mean, I'm sure there's something like LSU versus like. Well, they played USC. Yeah, like, again, there's so many, but to get a first time Auburn Notre Dame, that's really cool. Going back to that point, and
like his LSU played Washington before, or
right.
Yeah, somebody like that. So we can do that. Also, finally, most pressures by FBS defenses. The top 2 are in the Big 12 and tied at 1. Texas Tech and Utah. Oklahoma just behind them at 139. Pittsburgh and Texas round out the top 5. SMU with 129. Nice little pass rush there. Miami at 13th, rounding out the top 15 or so teams with ties there. Wake Forest 123. Notre Dame 128. Some ones that stick out to me. Wake Forest really good on defense, not so great on offense, but there's those pressures. So Tech, but seeing what you see with Utah, 140 pressures, BYU took it to them. They appear to be a team that's ready to take that on.
I think Tech is just a much better offense than Utah, or at least they appear to be that. I think they've got the one thing you cannot argue is they definitely have more weapons. Like, that's not even a question mark. And I would say they've got the better quarterback as well. Like, you can debate that, but I think unequivocally Baron Morton's got better weapons around him than Utah, where they're trying to have guys play both ways, even though that's partly their talent and they're good enough to do that. It's also like kind of out of necessity in some ways as well. But yeah, I mean, Texas Tech in that $1 million pass rush of theirs, They did take a little bit of a hit due to injury a couple weeks ago with Skylar Gill-Howard, just as far as the guys up front goes. That was unfortunate to see it, but they're still sitting there with, David Bailey and the like. And I think getting to Bear Bachmeier and being disruptive is going to be really key. But, man, the thing is you can't over pursue because he will run that sumbitch right up your gut and take off and score from way out there. So we've seen him break off big runs in absurd 3rd and long, even 4th and kind of long situations. I'm very curious about how Tech approaches the quarterback run game. I think he's a good thrower, but you got to force him into throwing the football, and they're going to try to run it with LJ Martin, but Bear in that quarterback run game, I think that's going to be really key this weekend, and just Tech's ability to get to him. So that's a nice stat, but BYU also sees that stat, and they're going to be well prepared for it, and that's going to be part of the chess match. I can't wait.
Yeah, by the way, I found our Titan matchup already, Craig. Bama versus Oregon. They've never played.
Alabama and Oregon have never played?
They've never played.
Wikipedia says LSU and Michigan have never played.
Really?
That would be dope.
Yeah. Okay. Wikipedia is an awesome site, man. Like it really is. Yeah. Alabama and Oregon have never played. Wow. Okay. So that's absolutely one. And then LSU.
They haven't played Arizona or Arizona State either. So there's the 2 of the Big 12 teams that haven't played.
Alabama?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I was like, yeah, I mean,
they don't like the desert apparently.
Yeah. I guess not. But, yeah, that's okay. So let's go back to that. Say that again. Alabama and Oregon. And then LSU and who, Garrett?
Michigan.
LSU. Okay, yeah, those are bangers, man. Like the fact that those have never happened, Oregon and Michigan are going to play each other. Now I'm getting them screwed up again, aren't I? Yeah, so Alabama, Oregon, LSU, Michigan. I'd watch those.
Clemson's never played Michigan. And they've never played Oregon. So
we need to turn this into we need to compile these.
Yeah, we do.
We need to compile these and get like the top 10 or just get a list going and see, and then we can eventually kind of sort them as well. But yeah, those are 2 heavyweight matchups that you can kind of understand Oregon because they're not a new booty still at this point, but they are in comparison to a lot of the others, like in Alabama, for example, they are a new booty. But yeah, those are a couple tight matchups I would love to see in the regular season. Make those happen. Get those done.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one SEC team they haven't played, but I haven't because it's 15 teams they've played. So there's one SEC team that they've never played as well. So yeah, we can start doing that. I think that's going to be a nice little project for us. We'll team up on that. Max Olson, ESPN.com. When we come back, this is 365 Sports.
Weekly specials at Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store. Full-service butcher shop and bakery on Lake Air Drive in Waco. Fresh mahi-mahi, $17.99 a pound. Chicken bombs, $8.50 a pound. Pork bombs at $8.50 a pound. Chicken wings at $2.50 a pound. Chicken breast, $1.99 a pound. And select ribeye steak, $16.99 a pound. And skin off the pork belly at $4.25 a pound. Full-service butcher shop with seafood, pork, poultry, and beef. And yes, that's where I get my steaks, the ribeyes, and they are delicious. You get whatever choice you want. Select, prime, choice. They'll cut it the way you want. The marbling is fantastic. And not just the ribeyes, but also they have sirloin if you want that, and New York strip, fillets, porterhouse, T-bones. And yes, they'll get you a tomahawk ribeye that is just so delicious. But if you want the seasonings and marinades and you want cold beer and wine, anything tailgating, it's Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Of ESPN.com joins us now. And Max, we saw the first CFP rankings a couple of days ago. I have a hard time finding, maybe for the first time ever, like legitimate real beef that's not maybe splitting hairs in this first round of it. It's only important because it kind of shows where people are leaning, but so much stuff can change. What were your thoughts on the first round of rankings we got?
Yeah, I think the top 10 shook out, pretty much how I would have expected. I think obviously you've seen since then that there's obviously going to be a lot of conversation around Notre Dame and just what do we do with Notre Dame and the fact that, their best win is going to be USC and, they've got 2 close losses and they may win out and be 10-2. And because they're independent, just have a real sweet, cushy situation here, being in the playoff. But, I think how you sort the 2-loss teams is obviously the challenge for this committee. And that's going to be, become more of the focus here in the next couple of weeks. I think there's probably an argument for Texas being ahead of Notre Dame, but, I feel like to some degree, Notre Dame is getting credit for who they lost to, and Texas gets dinged a little bit for losing, at Florida. So, I think how those separate here in the next couple of weeks is certainly going to define the race.
Well, and for Texas in particular, Max, they have the absolute probably of those teams that are on the bubble right now, it'll shake itself out schedule, because if they run the table, hell yes, put them in the playoffs. Obviously, that's no question. But if they lose another game and they're going to be on, kind of ride that bubble, then that probably takes care of it if Notre Dame wins out. So it's like,
it's good. That's a good example, though. If you have a situation where Notre Dame has got 2 great losses and not a huge, not a really impressive resume in terms of best wins, and you got a Texas team maybe at the end there who, let's say they lose in a 1-score game to A&M and they're 9-3, but 2 of those losses are A&M and Ohio State, and they're in the top 3 or 4. They're going to be a pretty interesting 9-3 team at the end of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Did your opinion change about them after the Vanderbilt game?
I think the start was really impressive. Obviously the finish in the fourth quarter wasn't great on defense, and they had some injuries on the back end that impacted that for sure. But I thought it was nice to see Texas, at least for a half, like really kind of put together its best football, and kind of, to see the Ryan Wingos and Colin Simmonses on that team really stand out and remind you just how good they are. And so I think it's encouraging. Obviously everybody was ready to kind of throw dirt on them after Florida. And Arch was the first bust ever and all that kind of stuff, or flop, excuse me. But, I think in this 4-game win streak, there've been some dramatic moments for sure, but I think you're starting to see that team kind of figure it out and put it together. And can they win out? I think it's going to be a really interesting question mark. But certainly when you look at the way Arch is performing, it does feel like he's starting to kind of figure things out.
Max, I'm going to rank the SEC jobs, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. In spite of the craziness, LSU's the number 1. Florida, number 2, Auburn, number 3, Arkansas, number 4. But I will say this, even though Auburn has been wildly more successful than Arkansas recently, I almost would rather have the Arkansas job than the Auburn job, because they are a little bit more patient.
That's interesting. I think there's probably people who would look at this and say that Auburn's better than Florida. I think Auburn's probably the one that is a little bit hard to judge. And, I think Florida and Auburn, I think two situations where, you certainly have put together talented rosters, and whoever comes in, if they can kind of hold that together and bring in a great portal class, you could probably win right away there. If you kind of get it right, you bring the right staff, you get the right players, you have retention, you don't just get gutted in the portal in January here as we go through this. I think those are 2 jobs where, you kind of maybe question some of the recent history here, but kind of set up to be successful and just kind of didn't have the right head coaches to actually put the pieces together and win big. So I think there's going to be some debate among that, but obviously that there's also the reality that these schools are all kind of fighting over Lane Kiffin and John Summerall. So I think how those guys decide, where those guys choose to go, I think will probably be pretty telling in terms of what's most valuable.
How many more jobs do you think will open up that are not just filled by, guys like that are just going to be open up because somebody got fired, not because somebody left to go to Auburn or LSU or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly still some hot seat situations that everybody's paying attention to here over the next few weeks. I think Wisconsin's all obviously down bad right now. I think Michigan State in year 2 is not in a good place, and you kind of wonder, where is is there some patience there, or does it feel like, man, they've got to win some games in November here, or it's over. I think everyone wants to kind of see, I think Florida State played great against Wake Forest, but Florida State's an interesting one. North Carolina at the end of the year, what does North Carolina want to do? What is the future there of the Belichick era? But yeah, I think there's probably also a lot of ones we're not going to see coming just because the coach is leaving for other jobs, and I think there's going to be a lot of unexpected movement here when we get into December.
I talked to an NIL agent the other day, Justin Giangrande. I don't know if you've met him or spoken to him. He's an interesting guy, and I asked him about the new transfer portal rules, Max, and how players feel about that. Now, I was kind of surprised to hear him say that most of his guys and most people he's talked to are happy that they can that they don't have to make a decision in the middle of the year, or that they can, because they might like where they are, they can now maybe not just have to throw their name in the portal right after the coach leaves. They have maybe more time to wait and see and all of that. How have you found that with the one portal window and with the coach firing thing is now, 15 days that starts 5 days after the new coach is announced?
Yeah, I think some of the I think some of the stuff they've sent to the schools would suggest that really that head coaching change portal window, we're not going to really deal with those until after January. So we may not see it. So we'll see how that all kind of shakes out and the policy around that. But I think to your point, it depends on kind of the perspective of the player. I think if the player is like, I'm happy here, we're good, like, let's sit down, let's renegotiate, because I think everybody has an agent now. Everybody's going to say, hey, what am I worth next year? Can I get more? But yeah, if you're happy, if you're not trying to leave, then you probably could look at this and say, yeah, we have a little more time in December to work this out. There's not as much pressure. There's not as much like having to have these meetings in November before the season's over and having tough talks and stuff like that. If you are trying to go, if you are trying to make a move, then your agent's already working on that, and your agent's already lining up places for them to go right now. We're not waiting until January 2nd when our name's officially in the portal to determine, which schools are in the mix and how much they're willing to pay and all that. So a lot of that is going on behind the scenes right now for the players that are trying to transfer, and especially the ones who are trying to transfer up. But yeah, I would agree that if you like where you're at and you're not really trying to leverage that, then hopefully bowl season won't be as stressful.
Max, you wrote a story this week. I've been waiting for someone to write this, and you're the perfect person to do it. But about the journeyman quarterbacks and between the four of them, the 15 schools that they went to, Tyler Van Dyke, a little less likely to travel with only going to 3 schools, but Drew Pine included in that, Robbie Ashford, and of course Chandler Morris, who is probably of the 4 you talked to the most accomplished, given he had some big moments at TCU. He had really big moments at North Texas, and he's having a great year right now at Virginia. What did you feel was the common thread between the 4 of them about, especially the itinerant nature of the quarterback, especially someone who is not top tier, but just below the top tier, like a Chandler Morris?
Yeah, I think that, and you're right, Chandler Morris, leading the number 12 team in the country, and he's the guy who told me that at the end of his time at TCU, he was really seriously thinking about just hanging it up and being done with college football because And he said it wasn't loving him back, and it's just, it was just so frustrating when he kind of gone through at TCU with all of his injuries and getting benched and all that. I think when you talk to those four guys, and I think three of those conversations were like over an hour, because there's a lot to unpack when you've been in college for 6 years, and all the places you've been, all the things you've witnessed and gone through. And I think for those guys, probably a little bit cathartic, because people haven't really like given them the chance to be like, hey, tell me what's this been like? Like, what's this roller coaster ride like to be a guy trying to be a starting QB at the Power 4 level and trying to be successful, and all the things that go into that are beyond your control in a lot of ways. And I think that was kind of the common theme with a lot of these guys is, if you're going to be in college 4, 5, 6 years, you're going to have setbacks, and you're going to have a lot of ways in which this doesn't go how you expected or hoped. And, credit to all those guys for not giving up and still, overcoming just years and years of injuries too. I think that was the thing. You talk to each of those guys and they have just a laundry list of things they've dealt with physically, that they've overcome to just keep playing. And so, just have a lot of appreciation for their willingness to open up about that and reflect on their journeys. And I think it's hard not to root for those guys when you listen to them and really give them a chance to kind of lay out, hey, here's why I've made the moves I've made and why I ended up where I am today. And I think all of them have struggled with those journeys at times, and it was nice to catch them in a moment where they kind of felt like they were finally in the right place.
Yeah, Robbie Ashford, you could have taken all the other injuries out of all the other quarterbacks in this thing, and he has enough for all of them, which is really what's put his career on the path it was on, because he's a superb athlete. I just don't think he's been able to get better because he gets hurt. Somebody else comes in. They're like, well, this guy's better. Sorry, Robbie. And then he's got a bus ticket, so to speak. Like it's a rough life. And the more it starts to look like the NFL, the more you're going to see, especially quarterbacks like this.
I think so. Yeah. And I think this is just baked into the quarterback experience now. Like went back and looked at it, I think from 18 to 21, kind of a 4-year sample there. If you look at the top 50 quarterbacks in each of those 4 classes, like close to 85% of those guys transferred at least once during their careers. So that's just how it goes. There's just not that many guys that have like the Trevor Lawrence experience of like, I'm going to go to college for 3 years and go pro and be a top pick and all that kind of stuff. There's usually setbacks. There's usually, guys that are competing with you. And, if you want to be a starter, most of these guys are making a move just to try to kind of chase that somewhere else. And so, Robbie Ashford is a guy that really enjoyed talking to, who, he began his career at Oregon behind Tyler Shuck. And then he goes to Auburn and gets to be a starter for a year during the year that Harsin gets fired, which is just, an absolutely horrible experience to be the QB1 in a year like that. People are pretty brutal to you. And then Hugh Freeze comes in and brings in Peyton Thorne, and Peyton Thorne takes his job. He goes to South Carolina, and he's backing up Lenora Sellers last year, and now he's at Wake Forest and trying to play through an injury and trying to lead them. And they're having a pretty solid year for a year one there. But, I think a lot of these people kind of see these guys go from school to school and think that, hey, this is wrong. College football's messed up. These guys don't care about school. They just care about money and all that kind of stuff. And like, if you actually ask them, what's it like? What have you gone through? A lot of it is that like, they're just trying to be successful. They're trying to make their dream come true. And, talking to Robbie Ashford, he said, even in the middle of year 6 of college, he still feels like he hasn't played his best football. And that's the challenge. It's like, can the universe align and you get to be successful like it's gone for Chandler Morris these last 2 years? That's a pretty elusive thing for most of these quarterbacks.
I'm going to link up that story when we release this video individually, Max, so people can click on it and read it, because it was super, super interesting. It was like I said, I've been waiting for a story like that because I'm curious as all get out about it, for a long time, about the different perspectives of it. Okay, last thing.
Well, and Paul, I probably could have talked to like 20 other guys for this story too. I mean, you see Jeff Sims over the weekend against Iowa State and what that guy's gone through to go out and be the Big 12 player of the week. It's there's a lot of guys out there right now who are in year 6 or even year 7 still chasing glory right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last thing, Max. Tech and BYU, the biggest game to roll through Lubbock in well over a decade. And this is a BYU team that is surprising in that they lost their quarterback right before the season and then landed on this true freshman stud in Bear Bachmeier. But I think if you watch the arc of Kalani Sitake's career, you shouldn't be too surprised that this team is at least pretty darn good. Maybe surprised that they're still undefeated at this point, given that Jake Retzlaff, Bear Bachmeier transition just worked out so well for both sides. But what do you think happens in this game? What's the key to it for you?
Yeah, it's funny. I think over these last 2 seasons, Paul, we've all, as close to these, we all follow the Big 12. I think we've all kind of looked at BYU and the runs they've been on and just been like, man, didn't totally see this coming. Don't totally know how to explain it. Obviously, you have the QB change. But it's just a tough, Kalani Sitake runs a tough program, and that's a team that has gone on the road over and over this year and come back from double-digit deficits and just out-tough their opponent. And so, I think it's a really formidable test for Texas Tech. I think, obviously, every week the scary thing with Texas Tech is just, can you keep Baron Morton protected and keep him healthy and on the field? And now that they've lost Will Hammond for the season, that's even more imperative. So and Baron Morton's such a great kid. You hope that he can kind of, have a streak here of getting to play a few games without having to exit. So I think obviously that's a big deal in terms of protecting him to kind of keep them on schedule offensively. And, I've got a piece coming out on Friday for ESPN.com on Texas Tech's defensive line and just how unbelievable those guys are. I think that is Bear Bachmeier has been good in third and long. He's handled third downs pretty well for a true freshman quarterback, but he hasn't seen guys like Romello Hyde and David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez. So I think Texas Tech defense, is going to be impressive again. I think Texas Tech wins and I think, potentially could win by double digits here in a massive moment for that program. But gosh, that'd be a pretty incredible upset by BYU and a major letdown for the Red Raiders. If Sitake's team pulls us off.
Yeah, you can't put it past them, but it's gonna be loud. Tortillas or no, it's gonna be tough to play there in Lubbock on Saturday. Max, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Max Olson of ESPN.com. 365 Sports is back right after this.
Don Chimidor and Coffee Beans in the Tawas Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco. And Joshua and Cheyenne are there to help you with your choice, selection, and information, history, insight on the best cigars from throughout the world. Padron and Cohiba, my favorite, Rocky Patel. And then, of course, I still like Macanudo or Ashton. My father's a very sneaky, underrated brand. So for me is La Fontana. But there's others if you want. And they have cigars in their 48-foot walk-in humidor. They can help you if there's a certain type, maybe a little bit of a taste or a little bit of and you want one a little bit more full or something that's just kind of calm when you smoke the cigar. Joshua and Cheyenne, Don Chimidor and Coffee Beans between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
You don't want to miss our best price deals during the Black Friday sales event at Allen Samuels. This month, you can save big on the truck you've been looking for, like the new Rams. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, Ram trucks give you that first-class feel. With premium options like luxurious leather trim seating, surround view cameras, and more. Shop our great selection in-store or online today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Over 30% of adults struggle with chronic foot and joint pain, and many face mobility limitations as they age. But a revolutionary Comfort First slipper has taken the wellness world by storm. Try Cloud Slides and feel you are walking on the clouds. Cloud Slides.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. make picks, win money. Must be 18 and up, 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So we'll talk about this next and off the radar, Craig, but I've been going through, you and I have been going through, Garrett's been going through Winsipedia, and the teams that have never played list. Fortunately, it's not really that long. Eventually, we're going to put out an infographic on this. I'm going to have Andrew do it, but it's going to be after we collectively decide who fits in this blue blood Titan versus Titan category. But there were some interesting ones we came up with, and we'll talk about it in off the radar.
Yeah,
but
we got a good matchup we hadn't thought about that your Knowles are involved in that we can get to. So as far as exclusively elite, we got 3 or 4 that we're starting off with here.
Yeah, I've got we've got to figure out who the teams are, but I looked at Bama's all-time, Clemson, FSU, Georgia, Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Notre Dame really, other than Auburn, they've played everybody. They've literally, because they're independent, they've
been around forever.
They've been around forever, so they played pretty much everybody. The ones that you would not pick out there that would be pretty small. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, joins us on a very somber day at the Star in Frisco. And Mickey, Marshawn Kneeland, 24 years old, the second-round pick just last year, was really starting to break out, I think, or kind of show out a little bit and come into his own as a player. Scored a touchdown on Monday night. Tragically, appears to have committed suicide last night. What are your thoughts on Marshawn Kneeland and the organization and how the team is handling it right now? Mickey, you there?
I can't hear a thing. Oh, no. Press Command D.
All right. You could go ahead and mute him for a second while we're waiting for him to figure that out. But but just for me personally, I text Mickey this morning at 4:30, about 4:30, and then I immediately went on to Twitter to okay, I'm talking to Mickey. Let me formulate some of the things I'm going to ask him about Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, and we'll get to that stuff, bye weeks and all that. And then the first thing I see is just 10 different Marshawn Kneeland stories. So, Mickey, tragedy with Marshawn Kneeland today in the Cowboys. How is the organization handling it? What has been the talk there today?
Well, to tell you the truth, since this is the bye week, obviously the players are not here. They had to have their mandatory 4 consecutive days off. And actually it started on Wednesday. So there's hardly anybody here but me, at least in this department. So, they put out the statement and we've seen the other statements, but there really has been nobody around to discuss anything. So I can answer that question better on Monday. They did provide, counseling service if anybody needed to come in and talk, but most of the people in the organization were going to be off today since we work, 6-7 days a week. They figured, well, everybody can have Thursday and Friday off, unbeknownst to what was going to take place.
Yeah. And Mickey, it's just kind of a testament to you got to make sure to check on people. We don't really know, we know some details about it, but not, the full picture yet, but you got to check in on people. And I think the thing that is, I think, shocking to a lot of people, when you see it on the outside, it kind of doesn't matter what happens at work. What happens at home is different, but he just scored a touchdown on Monday night. Like he has started to, in his second year, I know the pass rush is not great for the Cowboys, but you could see, you watch the games, you could see him starting to make an effect and turn into a pro football player. And now that's tragically cut short.
Yeah. And the, tragic death, but the emotional roller coaster from what you just pointed out. I thought he had a really good game Monday night, aside from, recovering the fumble for his first NFL touchdown. But just how he had been playing, and he'd been playing through a knee injury that kind of had limited him in practice for several weeks, caused him to miss a game. I believe it was two weeks ago. And that euphoria to now this is just unbelievably difficult to handle. And for people in the organization, because everybody was so fired up, not only for how he played, but the trades they made. It was like a shot in the arm getting Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson to add to this defense, and can add to them immediately. But then that was Wednesday, having the press conference with Quinnen Williams, to what took place overnight. And then today, I don't know if it would have been better if people were here, or better that they deal with it on their own until Monday.
Yeah, Mickey, it's really tragic and unfortunate. I texted you. I was saying before, I texted you this morning about it, and then I went on to Twitter to see, let me make my list of things outside of Quinnen Williams that I want to talk to Mickey about, and it was just my whole feed was
right
Sean Nealand. And then
I was headed here to basically, I was gonna take Friday off, and I was gonna get ahead, and I had my column all in my mind, and then about 8:30, I started getting the same messages, and it was like, okay, that column, I'm glad I didn't write it ahead of time, because that would have been tasteless, just, covering football so close to when this happened Thursday morning. So, yeah, I had to make a lane correction there. And so here we are. And, right now, I don't know if in our department here where we're at, I'm probably the only person here right now. So, yeah, tough day for us. Even myself, it just affects everybody. You know the guy, good guy, humble, kind of quiet, and for a defensive lineman. And then to not only pass away, but so tragically, it hurts your soul.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the opportunity to talk or meet Marshawn, and just as someone who's been around the facility in the past, I know exactly. I'm not only sad for him that I don't know, I'm sad for everybody there that I do know. I'm sad for just the entire situation. It's you can't imagine a team having to deal with this mid-season, and what the emotions are, and looking over there and him not being there, and there's a lot of emotions that come with this, and I know Dak Prescott has gone through it with his family before, and so I think about it's not only that, but how much does that bring up again? Like,
I'm sure for him, yeah, that's gotta
right.
And that's probably still raw with the
right?
his brother,
Yeah.
Committing suicide, and then him starting a fundraising campaign to combat mental illness. And there was a guy right across the locker room from you, evidently suffering from it. Yeah, it's it's a tough thing to handle, and and they're going to have to handle it because I've been writing my column still. I had to, like I said, switch gears, but in the NFL, you don't get bereavement cancellations, right? You got to play that game on the following Monday night in Las Vegas, and maybe thank the scheduling gods that this was a bye week and they didn't have to try to show up for practice on Thursday and Friday and play a game on Sunday.
Yeah.
This also kind of reminds me of, if you remember, Paul, 2020, when strength and conditioning coach Marcus Paul had that medical emergency here at the Star and passed away the day before the Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
And which was shocking, to say the least. And also, I can go back to 2012 when Josh Brent and, they had the car accident and their teammate, Jerry Brown, passed away. And a lot of people didn't find out until they showed up Saturday to get on the charter flight to Cincinnati. So, yeah. Sometime life gets in the way, and here's another example.
Well, Mickey, let's do talk about Quentin Williams and Logan Wilson for a second, because that did happen this week. And I think on the if you're trying to grade out the trade and the compensation, I've seen a lot of national pundits trying to put it for this year. And yeah, you probably overpaid for Quentin Williams if you think he's the last piece that's going to propel you to the Super Bowl for a 3-5-1 team. But for a team that has not had elite defensive tackle play for quite a long time, and this is a long-term play for the Cowboys with Quentin Williams, then I think it's something they probably had to do just from a defensive functionality place, right?
Well, I don't know how people can be so anal to think that this trade was to try to survive this year. Next year, second round in the draft, can you get a defensive tackle as good as Quentin Williams? Probably not, right? And who knows where you're drafting in 2027. But all I know is this guy's been a Pro Bowl player for the past 3 years. It's not like, well, yeah, he's played 7 years. He had Pro Bowls, 5 years ago. No, this is recent. And so, and also, if you look at it, by next year, they're going to have 2 defensive tackles for the price of Micah Parsons. And if you add Kenny Clark into the equation. So, yeah, I saw that stuff, and you can't always judge things on analytics, right? Sometimes you got to use your eyes. You got to see what's needed, when it's needed, and how long it will be useful for you. So, yeah, this wasn't about just this year. It was taking an advantage of a team that was trying to unload talent, and they certainly did, if you factor in Sauce Gardner being traded. And so who knows? What if you waited? What if you drafted the guy and he needs 2 or 3 years before he blossoms? Or is the guy that talented going to be there for you to draft? This was an opportunity to take advantage of a team that was trying to unload, salary cap space and talent. And for this year, it only cost the Cowboy half his base salary because he's only going to play 8 games. And I don't know if people understand, or those idiots understand, that players get paid 1/18 of their salary every week. So the Jets have already accounted for 9/18 of the salary. The Cowboys have the other 9, and he, I guess, fortunately, gets the use of 2 buys.
Yeah, and look, if this was a rental, you'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, absolutely. I was totally against just getting a guy on the final year of his contract and having to pay big time draft capital, right? No, I don't want that. Now, if they could take advantage of long term, getting for half this season and 2 more seasons, then go ahead and take advantage of that, because who knows if you're in that situation next year, or there's a team that wants to load just what you need. And this is just what the Cowboys needed. They needed a big badass in the middle of that defensive line to help out with not only stopping the run, but at 6'3", 303, put your arms up in the air and maybe get a good pass rush too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something they haven't had from the defensive tackle position consistently for quite a while.
Well, I don't know if you saw what I wrote on Wednesday, but it reminded me as I'm going, when's the last time the Cowboys had a defensive tackle that can play at a Pro Bowl level? Well, I had to go back to 2013, 1 year, Jason Hatcher.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a long time.
And then before that, you got to go back to 2007. There were 4 years there with Jay Ratliff. Mm-hmm. And then I'd have to go back to when they signed Leroy Glover in 2022, and he went to 4 consecutive Pro Bowls. But having a Pro Bowl defensive tackle, it has not been in the Cowboys' recent history.
No. And Mickey, Logan Wilson, just real quick before we let you go, they need depth at linebacker for sure. I mean, he did get benched in Cincinnati, and that's a defense that's struggling as well. But I'm curious to see the fit and how it works for him.
Yeah, and I think benched is a hard word to use, because what Cincinnati was doing, they're sitting there going, well, we're 3-6. We drafted this linebacker in the 3rd round. Well, let's go ahead and play them, right? Let's start, getting guys ready for next year. So, hey, this guy was pretty darn good, Wilson, and he was a team captain on top of this. And he had started. I looked up. He had missed. I think when games played, he had missed 11 starts, and 10 of them were his rookie year when he only played 12 games. So, and I was reading this in the Cincinnati Enquirer. It wasn't like the guy was playing bad. They just decided it was time to groom for the future.
Absolutely. Mickey, thank you so much. My thoughts to the Cowboys and everything they're going through. And I know it's going to be tough around there for the next little bit. And thanks for hopping on today.
Sure. Anytime, Paul. Thank you.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Craig Smoak's Off the Radars next.
Marco's Pizza, the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Right now on the homepage, Craver Savor. Explore the hot deals. Also specialty pizzas. Try all of them. Deluxe, the full meat, the pepperoni magnifico. America's favorite pizza chain. That Craver thing is a pizza along with some nuggets on the side that you want. It is there at Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area. I mentioned this again. There's a reason why they're the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza, Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. Special is subject to credit approval and membership eligibility. Visit GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Taking a look at a few stories, and there's a couple to mention real quick as far as the coaching carousel goes that I don't think we'll have time to get to. For one, and we didn't mention this at the top of the show, and I just don't think we saw it at the time, but Kenny Dillingham is reportedly letting it be known that he's going to be back at Arizona State next year. Mm-hmm. Apparently, according to Sun Devil source, a parent of a defensive player on the team said to Sun Devil source that he just walked in, said he wasn't going anywhere next year, and that it's going to be business as usual. Then he left. He also did that with other positions on the team because those players heard the same thing, and they talked about it after. So, yeah, he unexpectedly entered several position meeting rooms last week is when this apparently would have been taking place. And, told players he's going to be back next year. So there's Kenny Dillingham apparently not on the record, but letting it be known to the people that matter to him, his players, that he will be back next year. So that's notable, as is the fact that Wisconsin is apparently bringing back Luke Fickell. That coming down in the last little while, an interview with their AD. Now, I listened to the clip of him talking about Luke Fickell when asked about the changes that might be made. Their athletic director, Chris McIntosh, doing like a one-on-one little sit-down. And he, I guess, basically confirmed that Luke Fickell will be back, and they'll do what everybody does in this situation, which is what? We'll take a look at our NIL budget, and we'll, do whatever we got to do. But, Chris McIntosh saying that Luke Fickell will be back in 2026. So there you go. There's one job we thought might be opening up in the Big Ten that will apparently not be opening up. And great news for Luke Fickell supporters and for the Fickell family. But any thoughts on those? Obviously, love Dillingham. I mean, he needs to be at Arizona State. That's his school. That's his spot. That's where he needs to be. He needs to be the one of one, the first guy of this era, this NIL era, to kind of guide them. And I think he's in a perfect spot for him. As for Wisconsin, I would have been just interested in more carnage as far as like another job opening up. I have no real personal opinion on Luke Fickell and whether he deserves to stay or not.
I kind of like Luke Fickell.
Yeah, I mean, so
I don't. Yeah, he's not found a quarterback. He's changed offensive systems a couple times, so he's right at that thing of like, well, if you're Wisconsin, is it because are you saying like, yeah, we kind of shorted him on money? And if that's the case, then yeah, it's not Luke Fickell's fault.
Yeah, one of the quotes, Chancellor Mnuchin and I are aligned on significantly elevating investment in our program to compete at highest level. We are willing to make an investment in infrastructure and staff as important as our ability to retain and recruit. Like, you might as well just fill in the blanks for the school and the person saying this year to year for the coaching announcements that guys are sticking around, because they're all basically the same thing. We're going to invest and we're going to boost NIL and all that kind of jazz. But that to your point, that's kind of what they're going to do is just give them more and hope that that's enough to close the gap or get them back to their winning ways.
Yeah. Also Brent Key today, when they asked him about it, he said, cut me and see what colors I bleed.
Yeah,
because he's at his alma mater. I think it's going to be tough. Like, he and Dillingham and Jeff Brom, that's going to be tough to get them away. Like all these, like,
well, because now, Paul, you don't have to be at Ohio State.
No, you don't.
You can just be where you are and be successful.
I would love for Jeff Brom to be the coach at Florida State. I think he's a fantastic coach. But I do know that the people in Louisville begged, borrowed, and stole to make sure that he finally got there. And they're the first family of Louisville athletics, the Brom family. They're the Mannings of Louisville.
Right.
And he's successful there.
Yeah.
Why would you go?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So there you go. There's a couple of updates. Kenny Dillingham apparently telling players last week he was sticking around ASU. You would think he'd certainly be a name that people would kick the tires on. And if you didn't, I think you wouldn't be doing your job, because he's a great young coach. And also Luke Fickell staying at Wisconsin. No changes to be made, according to their AD, Chris McIntosh. So one less job that we thought might be out there, but there will still be more. All right, to the television ratings on a Thursday. Starting to find some spots where maybe another website or two that's going to be more timely as far as the ratings goes, because the one that I used to go to, my old tried and true, they don't deliver till Friday. We're already starting the next weekend. Like, what does last weekend's ratings matter by Friday to me? Thursday is my cutoff. But thank you very much to Brandon here for putting together a bit of an infographic on the highest rated games from this past week. And so the top rated game, and thank you, Brandon, truly, for putting the work in to do that. But the highest rated game last week, and keep in mind that there is this whole YouTube fiasco going on right now with blackouts and not everybody able to watch games. And so you do take that into account. I've seen that's been a big buzzy talking point for people who like to discuss ratings. It's like, well, yeah, but this would have had another million if YouTube TV wasn't blacked out. I don't know about all that. I'm just going to give you the numbers as they actually were last weekend. So last Saturday, the highest rated game, Florida, Georgia, 7.8 million for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. So the highest ranked game there, the Gators and the Bulldogs, and what was a very fun and entertaining game. So there in week 10, that was your top draw. Then you also had on Fox, you had Penn State and Ohio State, 7.2 million for the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions. So a very healthy number there. And that's without Penn State being Penn State, rolling into this one the way that you thought that they would be. Very much a game where you said, yeah, Ohio State's probably winning this one, but it did not result in any short change of eyeballs there. At number 3, taking the bronze this week on the podium, Oklahoma at Tennessee. Also a SEC ABC broadcast, 4.8 million for Sooners and Vols. They're in prime time. That game, a 6:30 Central kickoff, and a hell of a game, a hell of a win for Brent Venables and Oklahoma, one that they really, really needed. And then in the runner-up spots, Vandy, Texas, SEC on ABC, 4.5 million for the Longhorns' big win in their return to Austin. And then we don't get to talk about the Big 12 a lot on these ratings, folks. They are not to be found normally near the top of the list, but maybe with Texas Tech having this kind of oomph around them, and also the fact that they're very much in the playoff mix and people kind of watching them to see them fail or to stumble. That game last week where it looked like maybe it could get dicey in Manhattan with the way K-State's playing lately. $3.1 million for that game on Fox, a 2:30 kick. So that rounds out the top 5, and we have not had a lot of top 5s where there's been a Big 12 game. Very few, if any. So that's a nice number there for Texas Tech and Kansas State. And Texas Tech, BYU, I would imagine, is going to have a real crack at being the easily most watched game in the Big 12 this year. We'll see. But if that doesn't get like 4 million viewers, I think it's an absolute abject failure. And I have not seen what all's on the opposite side of the schedule, and because that can matter somewhat. But I think that should be as big of a number as you could expect from the league this year. That's not like the conference championship game. A couple of others, Indiana, Maryland had just under 3 million, 2.9. USC, Nebraska had just over 2, and I'll just do a 2 million cutoff there. So those were like the top handful of games last week.
Well, Indiana and Penn State is the other biggest game at 11 o'clock in Georgia and Mississippi State.
So that'll take some.
But like if you're in the 11 o'clock window, Ohio State and Purdue, I mean, obviously going to have it's on Big Ten Network though, so it won't have as big of a number. So, I mean, it should be the highest rated game of the 11 o'clock window.
It should be. If not, then that's really scary if you're Brett Yormark, that wouldn't be the biggest draw.
Yeah.
Because of the stakes and because right now those are your top 2 programs as far as the standings, as far as the attention, and as far as just where they are and how that matters in the big picture. So another good weekend for SEC, ABC, but really nice to see the Big 12 jump in there. And then Ohio State always delivers for the Big 10, despite Penn State being down. That was still big noon kickoff as well being there. So there you go, the top game, Florida and Georgia. And thanks to Brennan for putting that all together. And we'll compile a list and kind of see where things are as we get deeper and can eventually go back and do like what were the top 10 games from each league and have some fun sort of unpacking that. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing that Tech and BYU rating coming up this weekend. Real quick note on the hockey world. Did you watch Alex Ovechkin score 900 goals and become the first man to do so, Garrett Ross?
I did not see the game. I was too busy playing Ghost of Tsushima.
Okay, well, I lent him Ghost of Tsushima. I know that the new Ghost game's out, but I got Garrett on Ghost of Tsushima to get a little taste of Yotai.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he's enjoying it. So, yeah, Alex Ovechkin, the first player to score 900 goals. All of those goals, I mean, the highlight tape would probably be like 2.5 hours long, I would think. Probably longer than that for 900 freaking goals, but the first to ever do so. Huge NHL milestone. Obviously passed Gretzky's mark earlier in the year, but kept going. And now the first man to score 900 goals. And it's led to the question of, is he going to be the first to try to get to 1,000? Now his age and like the pace of goals, probably not. But should he give it a try? Why the hell not if he feels up for it?
Yeah, if he's and look, he's still a very good and effective player. So did you see what the goalie did with the puck?
Yeah, I was going to mention that the part about it though was what was really weird is Ovechkin scores this remarkable, historic, never been done before 900th goal, and that's amazing enough on its own. But he scored it on Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington, who then proceeded to, and this is all over social media, pick up the puck, like took his glove off, picked up the puck, and then shoved it in his pants.
Yeah.
And then the referee came over to like get the puck, and he tried to like act as though he didn't have it originally. And then eventually they were like, dude, give us the freaking puck.
I think during a timeout, one of his Ovechkin's teammates came over and was like, hey, buddy.
Somebody noticed it. Yeah.
You're not always going to be with the Blues. Like you don't want to be this guy.
Yeah. Don't be weird. Like, what are you doing? Like this is this huge moment and you're just being like weird out of nowhere. So that's just kind of strange. But yeah, he took it and put it in his pants, and they eventually were like, dude, give us the puck. And it's like, it's on film. I mean, there's no that people saw you. It's on tape. So eventually he gives it over. He's since come out and said,
"They have a camera, by the way, Bennington. They have a camera just for you."
Yeah, just there is a goalie camera, but he eventually did give it back, and he downplayed it and said that he was always intending to give it back, but still just like a really weird moment of behavior. So there is the goal, the puck from that 900th goal. There's Ovechkin, the greatest hockey player arguably ever at this point, and a milestone that maybe we'll never see reached again, and we haven't seen reached in watching hockey all these years. So a very, very cool mark there, but a weird little asterisk next to it because of the behavior of the Blues goalie, who had a bad night, so maybe that's why he was reacting the way that he was. I don't know. Maybe it was because he was giving up so many goals. He needed to react somehow. But yeah, Jordan Bennington, one of those names in the record books, but not for the reason that you want to be in there. A footnote for the wrong reasons, I guess, if you will, but a very cool accomplishment by Alex Ovechkin. And then one more note before we wrap it up here with the schedule tonight. Max Muncy, I wanted to make mention of this. Former Big 12 baseball star, played with Baylor, went to the pros, started his career off with the Oakland A's, eventually made his way to the Dodgers a few years ago, and has done nothing but win World Series and have a lot of big moments. And his contract was coming up after the Dodgers just won another World Series, and he had a club option. And today the Dodgers picked up Max Muncy's club option.
Yeah.
So their starting third baseman is going to be back and looking to try to be a part of a three-peat with LA. So Muncy, his option was valued at $10 million, and with Kershaw's retirement, he is now the longest tenured LA Dodger on this roster. So he was originally a minor league contract guy coming off the heels of his career in Oakland, and so to turn into this is pretty remarkable and pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a better guy too. He's an awesome guy. He's a great ambassador for Major League Baseball, for Baylor, where he was here for the sport. He's one of those guys in LA as the all-time home run leader in the postseason for the Dodgers that won't have to pay for a beer if there's a Dodgers fan in the room again.
He's had some huge hits for them, man.
Huge big hits, and he's towards the end of his career. That's
35 years old.
Yeah, he's 35. I mean, it's in the sundown part of his career, but he's still an effective player. Plus, bringing him back at third allows them to spend a little bit of money in the outfield, which I think that they want to do, and a little bit of money on a closer.
Yeah, I could see where that would be a route that they go. Yeah. So Max Muncy, congratulations. That's big time. Get a brand new option pickup in a new year with the Dodgers, where he has made himself one heck of a career over these last few seasons and won a couple World Series. Does he have 2 World Series, or was there one before that as well?
Let's see. They've got the last 2 and then 2020. So yeah.
Is he on that 2020 team?
Max, yeah, he's on that team.
Okay, yeah, yes, he's as long as So 3 World Series championships for him as well. All right, wrapping it up now. 2 games tonight in college football. Got Georgia Southern at Appalachian State. That kicks off at 6:30 on ESPN2. This is a 6:30 kickoff, as I mentioned, and a game where App State finds themselves 5.5-point favorites. The Mountaineers are 4-4. But both these teams 1-3 in the Sun Belt. The Eagles 3-5. So they're basically in the same ballpark. But somebody will get their second Sun Belt win tonight, and somebody will drop to 1-4. So that's at 6:30 live from App State, and then over on ESPN. How about this one? UTSA, that big one over Tulane at South Florida. That also kicking off at 6:30. That on main ESPN. The Bulls 2 touchdown favorites, 13.5-point favorites. Last I looked. But Jeff Traylor, a hot name in coaching circles, as is Alex Golish. So could be watching these two guys coach against each other in a different league next year. But a big game tonight in the American Conference. And then over in the NFL, also got some pro football going on tonight. Raiders and Broncos, some AFC West action. That starts at 7:15 Central on Amazon Prime. So double dip of college, also some pro ball, and there's, of course, hoops going on as well.
Yep.
So there you go. There's a few things off the radar.
All right, and so to our list that we have compiled so far. Yes. This is just so far. This is the early list.
Yeah, people just joining us. We were trying to think of the games between the most prestigious programs that have never been played before. So who are the winningest teams that have never played? Because this is on the heels of Auburn and Notre Dame announcing they'll play for the first time ever.
So just real quick, LSU and Michigan, Bama and Oregon, FSU and Texas have never played. Clemson has never played Michigan, Oregon, or Washington. FSU has never played Washington. Georgia has never played Oregon, and A&M has never played Oregon. So Notre Dame's played pretty much everybody in the Titan realm. We'll go through and do a deeper dive, but this is just 15 minutes of research during a pre-recorded interview that we were able to do.
And if you see this anywhere else, somebody going, these are the biggest matchups. Total ripoff. We got the video footage, and it's a total ripoff.
Yes.
We're doing this, and we will claim it.
Yeah, I will continue to work on this tomorrow morning as well, and kind of get a fully fleshed out list and make a list that includes like there's probably 12 to 15 programs we can kind of include in this, maybe 16 that we'll go through. Greg Wrubell, voice of the BYU Cougars, on his way to Lubbock this week for a titanic matchup between Tech and BYU. Greg, always great to have you on the show. And I have no dog in this hunt, and I cannot be more giddy for a game because of how good these two teams are. I can't imagine what you guys are feeling.
Yeah, it's a first of its kind game for BYU. Really, it's the first ever. And this kind of surprised me actually. First ever top 10 versus top 10 meeting in BYU football history. They've never been ranked in the top 10 and taken on a top 10 team at the same time ever until this weekend. So that's pretty cool.
Greg, just as far as kind of the anticipation, what's it felt like around Provo? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of folks traveling out to Lubbock. Obviously, a lot of stakes. Just kind of what's the mood and what's the confidence level? And just with this incredible start they're off to, how's Cougar Nation feeling?
Well, it feels a lot like last year. Last year, BYU was 8-0 going into November, coming off a bye week, and it's the very same situation this time around. A lot of similarities from last year to this year. Provo feels pretty normal. I think as much as people will head down there for sure, what's going to happen is BYU is going to draw from the state of Texas, as they always do when they get down there. What you'll always find is that, BYU, whenever they travel, some people come from this neck of the woods, but pretty much everywhere they go, the fans are already ensconced. They're already connected to BYU one way or the other, and they come out and they'll get whatever tickets they can find. It's going to be a hard ticket to get on Saturday, but I think BYU is going to have a good representation as they have it in every road game this season. In fact, ever since I've been doing this, it's one of the best things about this job is that wherever we go, wherever BYU goes, we'll find a lot of BYU blue in the stands. But back to your original point, very similar to the setup last year. There they were, 8-0, going into the first or coming out of the first college football rankings of the season. Last year, BYU actually got to 9-0 before dropping back-to-back games and taking themselves out of the Big 12 title game hunt and out of the playoff. And that's the thing they hope to do this year is flip the script. And it's a tougher task this time around, though. Last year, they were finishing with a bad Utah team. Kansas, who they should have beaten. Arizona State was tough, and they lost to ASU, and then they beat Houston to finish off the year. This year, it's at Lubbock. It's home to TCU. It's at Cincy, and then you finish off with the game you should get against UCF, but a much different closing slate this year than last. But the same scenario exists, and that is go 3-1 and lock down a spot in Arlington. Last year, 2-2, didn't get it done. Yeah,
Greg, the fronts for both these teams are very good. That is the kind of key matchup. BYU did very well defensively and offensively up front against Utah, who is one of the best pass rushing teams in the country as well, as far as their quarterback pressures. Do you see a difference in having Romello Height and David Bailey on those edges compared to what Utah has?
Yeah, as good as John Henry Daly is, I think Texas Tech's guys are better. And so I think it's a tougher test. What did K-State run for this past week? I think $126. And that was the high water mark for the year against Texas Tech. And I'm not sure that BYU has to do a whole lot better than that to kind of be in the game, but they have to have some semblance of balance. That said, they did show they could throw it when they had to against Iowa State. And I think at this point, guys, the training wheels are off of quarterback Bear Bachmeier. He's no longer the true freshman quarterback. He's just the quarterback, and Aaron Roderick can open the entire book to him and have him do whatever it takes to get the job done. But it would help. It would help a great deal if they get a full game out of LJ Martin. He only played a little bit of the game at Iowa State, scored a rushing touchdown, then left due to injury. The bye week really helps BYU because of LJ Martin. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't play. The question will be, how well does he play? But he's a difference maker for BYU when he's back there. And against Texas Tech of all teams, you need a guy like LJ Martin, as the Red Raiders are the best rush defense in the country. I don't think BYU's offensive line gets enough credit for the help they've given Bear Bachmeier this year, but I really do like how they have a solid 7-man rotation up there, 7 guys who can get it done. And they've been, I think, one of the sub-stories of the year for BYU. Those 2 tackles, Isaiah Jada and Andrew Gentry, are as good as BYU's had in a bit, and they've been a big part of this year's success.
LJ Martin's Texas homecoming reminds me of like a lesson to teach people about how big the state of Texas is, because he's as far like west as you can go out there in El Paso, and Lubbock's really far out west. But El Paso's still like 5.5 hours away from Lubbock. Like, that's just how big this state is. But very cool that he'll be available, and that is definitely a crucial piece of the puzzle for BYU. So glad he'll be available. You mentioned Bear. I mean, where do you start with him? I mean, if there's a 4th and 15, he's going to run for 16 up the gut on a read option and pick it up somehow. If you need him to make a play, he's going to make a play. What has impressed you most from what you've seen this year?
Well, just the fact that I don't think of him as a freshman anymore. He just hasn't done the things you expect freshmen to do. And so I couldn't be more impressed. I mean, first of all, physically, I mean, he really, for a true freshman, brings in a college-ready physical presence. His lower body's very strong. He's a very substantial-looking guy. And then the cerebral part of it is there. I think Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator, probably felt that he had to bring him along when the season began. How much can you actually ask him to do? But it wasn't too long before he realized he could give him a lot to do between the communication in the helmet, to the breaking out of the huddle, to the setting up of the team at the line of scrimmage. I think it wasn't too long before Aaron realized he can give him a lot. And to this point where Bear does everything you'd expect him to do from a guy, with 3 years of experience in the program. You're asking to do that with Bear Bachmeier. So I really don't know where to start or finish with the accolades with him. There is the cerebral part, the thoughtful, composed, very well put together, level-headed, kind of flatlining guy. He's not overly gregarious, but he's not retiring either. He's got a fun personality, but he's not looking out to make headlines. He's just a really solid dude. He committed to Stanford. His brother Tiger was already at Stanford. He's got the smarts to be that kind of guy. And then the competitive level, when you put him on the field, the switch flips and all the quiet, kind of reserved, cerebral characteristics kind of go out the window when it's time to make a first down. And he earns that 47 jersey number because he looks and plays like a linebacker when he gets past that line of scrimmage. And so I can't say enough about him. Super impressed. Can't believe he's only the age he is in his first year at college football. With his next rushing touchdown, and I think he's going to get one more rushing touchdown this year, he will tie the all-time BYU single season quarterback touchdown rush record, which is pretty something as well.
Greg, they have cut down on the mistakes, the little things as well, the things that made some of the early games a little more heart pounding, and kind of maybe even created some of that Bear Bachmeier magic of him being able to kind of get them out of a funk and lead them down on key drives. What do you think has been the key part of that to cleaning up the little things that they were doing wrong? Even though we're winning games, they've had some cardiac moments, especially early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, they've been turnover free in 5 of the 8 games. That's going to help you a great deal. I mean, you don't give the ball away, you're going to be in most games, and BYU's been really clean in 5 of the games, and minor mistakes in the others. I think there was a game where they had maybe 4 false starts, but that was an outlier game. They've been able to smooth off some of the rough edges. I think the cardiac nature comes from the way they've been putting themselves behind early in a couple of games, and yet they've proven that they can be in every game. Things don't have to go perfectly for them. Iowa State outgains them. I think Utah outgains them. They win both games. They kind of had a nice lead against Utah, had to come back big against Iowa State. They're kind of proving they can win every kind of game. Give them an hour delay at Arizona. Put them behind in that game, they'll find a way to come back. Take it to overtime, they'll find a way there. I just don't know that there's anything this team hasn't been able to prove to itself through 8 games yet. And then all ramps up to Texas Tech, because Texas Tech becomes the best team they've faced this season. I think Utah was a very good team. I think Iowa State on the road was a tough challenge. I don't think Iowa State played great against Arizona State the week after. I don't know if there was any letdown or a hangover, but a little disappointing to me to see the way that Iowa State bounced back or didn't against Arizona State, because I thought Iowa State was a tough team and a tough place to play. But if you want to say the 2 toughest challenges, it's probably been Utah and Texas Tech. They took care of one. Can they now take care of the other? I do know this. If BYU handles Texas Tech or just beats Texas Tech on Saturday, you can almost book them to Arlington. And that's saying a lot. They still have to win at least 2 more games, but I think it's a doable thing. If you're good enough to beat Texas Tech, you're probably good enough to win 2 of your last 3 games. That said, if you don't beat Texas Tech, all is not lost. If you're a BYU fan, you can still win out and control your own destiny and get to Arlington the very same way. 3-1 is the magic formula right now. 2-2 brings way too many tiebreakers into play, and last year 2-2 didn't get it done. So win or lose, BYU still in the mix after Saturday in Lubbock, but a win, speaks for itself.
Greg, we've touched on a lot of like the key things and I guess the general discussion, except for that BYU defense. So let's ask you about Jay Hill and company right now, and just nasty physical corners and big dudes. I mean, they're nasty, man. I guess just kind of what jumps off top of mind for you about the way they played defensively this year, and what kind of do you sort of expect being the challenges or maybe some of the strengths in facing Baron Morton and company this week?
Well, Texas Tech's been able to play with two pretty good quarterbacks for a while this year, and now with now they're down to one that we really know a lot about, right? And so I think getting to Baron Morton's going to be a factor in this game. I think Jay Hill, in his third year as defensive coordinator, has a system that kind of is in a flywheel, part of Jay's tenure here at BYU. Things have really picked up momentum. We already knew about Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker at linebacker. That was a given coming into the year. The question was, would they get enough strength up front, and would they be good enough on the edges and solid enough in the back end? And the answer has been yes, yes, and yes on that. Those two corners, Therian Alexander III and Evan Johnson, have been as good a duo as BYU's had in some time. Tanner Wall really is a steadying force at safety back there. And Faletau Satuala, who had that pick six against Iowa State, has really emerged as a potential, all Big 12 type safety down the line. If not this year, I think his time will come. And I think the most pleasant surprise for BYU has been the defensive line, because they lost basically all of last year's starting D line. And whether it's, we all knew about Keanu Tanuvasa, the Utah transfer, and he's been good. Justin Kirkland, the Oklahoma State transfer, and he's been good. But then it's the other guys like Logan Lutui and Bodie Schoonover that really added to that group. And I think given BYU maybe even more strength than they had than last year's defensive line when they lost a guy like Tyler Batty to the NFL. So I think whether you're looking at up front, in the middle linebacking core, in the linebacking core, or on that back end, I think you could look at each area and say that BYU's really pulled its weight defensively. And since Jay's gotten to BYU, first year was kind of a feeling out process, but these last 2 years, especially in pass defense, it's been the biggest change maker for BYU. They've been a top 10 team in pass efficiency defense in each of the last 2 years, and that wasn't always BYU's calling card, but it's begun to be, and that's a big factor.
So, Greg, this is the second time or the third time that these programs have ever met, and I'm assuming, even though you look great, that you were not around in 1940 when they played the first time doing that game. So how excited are you for a trip to a new stadium, a new place to do a game?
Very excited, because the only time I've been to Lubbock has been for basketball to this point. We played a game at USA a couple of years ago, BYU's first year in the Big 12 for basketball. Didn't visit there last year. So it's one of the places I've been to least frequently in the Big 12 since joining the league. And so I'm very excited about it. And yes, 1940 predates me happily. The only other meeting was 2 years ago in Provo. BYU actually got that game in their first year in the Big 12. As it turned out, it was their second and last conference win of that year. They did finish 2-7. After beating Texas Tech, there were no more conference wins to be had that year. Texas Tech hurt itself, turned it over 5 times, I think, in that game. But yeah, back to your original point, getting to see new places and new venues and reconnect with new broadcasters and find new fan bases to be in front of is one of the best things about this job. And I couldn't be more excited about Saturday. Game day shows up, and yeah, there's those thoughts of 2008, Michael Crabtree in Texas, and all the hype from that day kind of equating to this weekend. And what a great setup we've got. Can't wait for Saturday to get here. I hope I get to Lubbock, right? I'm getting all the warnings about government shutdown, flight cancellations, and I'm hoping everything goes smoothly tomorrow. If I can get from Salt Lake to Dallas, I don't mind finding a car and driving on out if that Lubbock flight gets canceled. But I got to get to Dallas somewhere or the other tomorrow.
Dallas is one of the affected 40 reduction flight airports.
Yeah.
So
I'm hearing.
Salt Lake, is that one of them or no?
It's not. It's not, right? At least not from an American standpoint. Delta, who knows? If I have to switch airlines, I'm going to get there one way or another. And if it involves planes, trains, and automobiles, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, Lubbock does it. Lubbock does have an airport, so there might be a connecting if you can kind of. Hopefully, you don't have to go that route, but there is at least an airport, so maybe that'll present some options for you. But as you're well aware, BYU's got arguably the best fan base, but you're about to walk into a place that can contend for that crown as well, and they've been in some great atmospheres. I can't wait for this game, man. I hope you get there, knock on wood, and we appreciate you, man. This is going to be awesome. This is what BYU, I think, hoped for when they joined the Big 12, right? Was weekends like this right here.
Yeah, this is what it's all about, really. You put yourself in a position to play in these kind of games with these kind of stakes. As mentioned earlier, it's never happened, a game with this much on the line. And so, BYU fans are hoping it's a November to remember, and Texas Tech's in a great spot again, for themselves as well. So who knows? Maybe it's a preview of the Big 12 title game. That's also a possibility as well. So who knows what happens the rest of the month, but let's get it going here this Saturday.
Good luck, and I hope if you need someone, you meet a shower curtain ring salesman.
That's right.
On the plane to do that with you. Greg, voice of the Cougars, BYU. This is 365 Sports.
Hey guys, I'm Abby Dommett, 2023 CrossFit Games athlete, and I use Airwave because it helps me breathe easier and stay more relaxed during my workouts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very discreet.
As life goes on, it settles into patterns. But it doesn't have to go that way. You just have to do one thing. Get out of the house. Get out of your comfort zone. Leave room for the unexpected.
American Tourister.
And pace.
What do you want?
What's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about?
Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it.
Meet Beagle, your financial concierge. Find your old 401k. Discover your 401k hidden fees. Roll over and save thousands. Unlock your 401k and IRA. MeetBeagle.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by flagandanthem.com. Tonight, a topic so nice, we did it twice. Also, use our promo code 365 Sports at Flag and Anthem for a discount at checkout. G6 coaches that should be in the P4 in 2026. Number 5, UNLV's Dan Mullen. Look, he's been at Mississippi State. He's been at Florida. He was way better at Florida than the guy who followed him, and Billy Napier, got run out because he had fallen behind Georgia in recruiting. Florida as a university had kind of fallen behind in the other things they needed to provide for a coach. I think he got burned out. I think now with NIL and the transfer portal, things maybe have loosened up for Dan Mullen when it comes to recruiting and his passion for it. Look, I know he's only been there for a year, but I fully expect, given the amount of jobs that are going to be open, that Dan Mullen is going to get one of them, and he probably should. That's the other thing about this topic, as if I can rewind for a second. Steve Sarkisian said, where are these coaches going to come from? Well, I'm here to tell you, these are the guys that are going to fill these jobs over the next 2 top 5s. Number 4, Sean Lewis at San Diego State. An offensive mind, was a head coach in the MAC, then was Deion Sanders' offensive coordinator, was let go, took the head coaching job at San Diego State. They are dominant on defense. So he's an offensive-minded head coach that knows how to bring in and coach up a defensive team. He's got a good defensive staff. He will bring them with him where he goes, more than likely. and he is ready for the big time. Believe you me. In fact, I thought he was going to be Deion Sanders' offensive coordinator for a year or two, and then he'd already be in the power conferences. Number 3, Bob Chesney at James Madison was dominant at Holy Cross, continues that dominance at James Madison now, replacing Kurt Signetti. If I'm Penn State, if I'm Auburn, if I'm FSU, if I'm Florida, if I'm any one of these big jobs, and I want to dip down into the lower levels and get a young guy who's on his way up, this is the dude I'm probably going to get for sure. He is one of my favorite young coaches out there right now. He is doing great things at James Madison. If he doesn't get a job this year, he certainly will next year. Number 2, Eric Morris. This one seems a little like fait accompli to me that he is going to be a power coach next year, be it at Oklahoma State or somewhere else. Look, if Dave Aranda moves on from Baylor in one way or another, Craig put it yesterday, 1 foot in, 1 foot out on that. It's hard to see where their season is going. And if it turns bad, I think Eric Morris is going to be a prime candidate at Baylor. In addition, he's already a prime candidate at Oklahoma State. Number 1, Jeff Traylor was on our show the other day, and I just get the vibe of hearing his press conference from the other night, the interview that we had with him the other day, that he has done all that he can do right now at UTSA. Now, look, if they find some money to really back that program, then he can probably do more. But I think that he is at that limit. And I think that when you have a coach who's been in the group of 5, group of 6 for the last few years, like Jeff has, that's ready to be a head coach at the other level, and he's still there, which he's been ready for a couple years, and he stays, that's a good thing. Now, if they have a down season, like they've had a little bit of a down one this year, that's going to happen, especially at a school like UTSA. But you can't really put it all on Jeff Traylor because things are limited, and it's hard to find that. I think that there are 4 or 5 schools that could hire Jeff Traylor that are open right now that would be better right away. Well, I say 4 or 5 that are open or could be open, that they would be better in year 1 under Jeff Traylor. Maybe not CFP, but better in year 1 under Jeff Traylor than they are right now. Well, that's going to do it for this top 5. Andrew Verlade's Carnival is coming up next. We are investigating getting a new wheel. This one has seen better days, apparently. Andrew doesn't like it. He doesn't like the construction of the wheel. He wants a fancier wheel. Okay, where are we here? Have you ever been to or played in a football game where it was snowing? I have. Yes, I've been to one. I didn't play in one because I grew up in South Florida. So one time it was like 51 degrees and we thought we were going to die. But
yeah, I mean, I haven't played in one. There was, I think, a Pop Warner game growing up where it got a little icy. We got ice, not snow, in East Texas. So it was like an icy day. I remember it being really, really cold. So I guess technically played in a Pop Warner game where it was sort of like that. But the coldest, most miserable game I've ever been to was what was that? Air Force Baylor in the Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth a few years ago. First of all, it's a real kick in the to go play your bowl game up the road at your rival's stadium. Mm-hmm. That doesn't play in an NFL stadium. It's just the TCU stadium. Hey, happy bowl. You're playing at your rival stadium. Like that just immediately was like a nope. And then the weather turned out to be just absolutely atrocious. Ice, snowstorm, wind, rain, everything. Kudos to everybody who stayed in the stands that night, but that was miserable even for us in the press box. And that is the coldest game I can recall ever being. I know Texas Baylor a few years back was really cold, but I've kind of blacked that out, honestly. Like I remember being there, but I much more vividly remember the Armed Forces Bowl being bad weather than I do the Texas Baylor game.
I was at a Cowboys Seahawks game at Texas Stadium when I was 7 years old where it snowed. It wasn't like a lot, but it was snow. Now, I would go to one. I would like to go to Lambeau. I hate snow. I hate ice, but I would like to go to one and tough it out. But
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be
like
fun.
At Lambeau Field with a downpour. That'd be a lot of fun.
Buffalo.
Yeah, somewhere like that would be cool when they really do it big like that, not just some random like it snowed in Tampa or something like some random ass thing. But that Armed Forces Bowl, you talk about just the biggest kick to the guts. Go play at your rival's stadium, so it's not even a fun trip, and you're at your rival's stadium again. I keep hammering it home because that's not what the bowl game should be about, is playing where your arch enemy plays their home games, and you're surrounded by all their stuff. So anyways, great reward. Not to mention it was the worst weather imaginable, like one of the coldest bowl games ever on record, and you were playing a freaking service academy who then ran it all over your ass and beat you up and made you like it. Like, it was the worst bowl experience.
Yeah,
bar none.
My hands were so cold from dragging the gear in from the parking lot that they never warmed up again.
What a day!
Like, until I got to, I stayed in a hotel in Fort Worth that night because I was flying to Nashville's Christmas time the next day, and that's when the whole Southwest, we use Windows 95 bullshit happened. So that was an exciting day. I didn't wind up flying first class on American, so it wasn't a total loss. But my hands did not get warm again until I got in the shower, of which in that hotel it was really cool. It had a thing where you could turn the temperature up, like you could see how much it was. And I stood there with my hands under it before I got in, like turning it up until I couldn't take it anymore. Like, and they're like, okay, now they're officially defrosted. If I'm going, but it was a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it was not fun. It was not a fun day, not a memorable. It was a memorable bowl game, but not for any good reasons whatsoever.
Yeah, and then I just stood in the hot shower for probably 30 minutes. Like, it was just to get warm again. It was colder than the day that I sat in the ice tub when it was 30 degrees outside at a Baylor game. It was colder than that day, and that was pretty damn cold. Okay, trivia questions. In this decade, Notre Dame solidified its current independent status through a landmark television deal. I think that's the 70s.
Would this have had anything to do with Georgia and Oklahoma?
No, I think this was before then.
Okay, so that was the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So the only other option would be the 70s.
Yeah, I'm going to say the 70s. I'm going to go with Andrew's piece. Oh, the 90s.
Not
Oh,
even
wow.
close.
Oh, wow. Notre Dame has been an independent football program since 1887. In 1990, the school left the College Football Association to sign a landmark TV
it
deal.
did have something to do with the Georgia, Oklahoma.
Yeah. Redefining how college football was broadcast. This partnership is still active today. Lets Notre Dame stay independent, face top-end opponents, and reach millions of fans on NBC and Peacock.
Yeah.
So, wow. I would thought it was the 70s.
It was 1990s, so it was right there on the verge. But yeah, I figured it had something to do with Georgia, Oklahoma, so I would have guessed 80s and been wrong still. But okay, 1990.
All right. Okay, next one. Andrew gotten a couple on us in a row.
So it's 500-3.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Andrew.
This puck stopper doesn't just save goals, he scores them, holding the NHL record for most goals by a goaltender. Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Heinrich Lundqvist, and Marc-Andre Fleury. I can tell you I have no idea.
I have no idea. I'll say Marc-Andre Fleury, but yeah, I have no clue whatsoever.
I'll agree with you. What the heck? Let's throw it out there. Martin Brodeur. Garrett, am I supposed to know this?
I mean, maybe.
Brodeur, no, no, not if you don't watch hockey.
2 in the regular season, 1 in the playoffs for Martin Brodeur, the legendary Devils goalie. 3 career goals, the most by any NHL goalie. He's also uniquely credited with a game-winning goal, a rare feat for a netminder. Brodeur's scoring record showcases not only his goaltending skill, but his remarkable awareness and puck fielding ability.
Yeah, I remember old Marty B. I mean, I watched him quite a bit back in the day. Didn't have any idea about the trivia question though. So yeah, good for him. Goalie and goal scorer.
Yeah, a guy in my dorm in college was a huge Devils fan, and he had if they put out any kind of like alternate Martin Brodeur jersey, I don't remember his name. I just know that 7 days a week I would see him, and 4 days of the week he was Martin Brodeur. Like he was a huge Devils fan. Huge. Which Chula squad can still punch a ticket to the CFP? I mean, this is easy. Notre Dame wins out, they're going. That's not necessarily true for all the rest of these teams, although I think if any of these 4 teams went out, they're probably going to wind up in it, because that would mean Utah likely wins the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas has a really solid shot still. Could have stumbled once more and been completely out of the race, but handled their business these last few weeks for the most part, and evaded the Kentucky upset and narrowly did so, and got the big win over Vandy. So they navigated a couple potential landmines that would have ruined their big picture. So yeah, they're still very much in it. The Sooners are there, but they deserve to probably be the least of these votes, because Notre Dame's, I think, the clear choice, followed probably by Utah, because I do think they're in a better position still than Texas, although Utah not in control of their destiny. I mean, they've already lost to BYU and have already lost to Texas Tech. So even if Tech loses, they're still down to Tech. And if BYU loses, they're still behind them regardless as well. So they have some work to do, as does Texas, and as, of course, Oklahoma would as well. So, yeah, Notre Dame, the easy choice here.
If they're 10-2, I tend to think that they have a good shot at it, though. Utah does. But
yeah, I mean, they could get it at large. Yeah. I think they'd be in the mix for that. I think 2 is far from a given, but a real strong possibility. And there's a very slight but realistic possibility, very slight, though, that you could get 3. Yeah. It would have to fall pretty perfectly.
Yeah, it'd have to be a very specific scenario that would happen. Okay, next up, which ACC team is most likely to win the title and make the CFP? Louisville just nudging Georgia Tech here over Virginia and Miami. I think it's going to wind up probably being Louisville and Georgia Tech in this game. But, man, don't sleep on Virginia. They're crafty. They're very crafty. I think Georgia Tech dropped too far because of the loss. I mean, they should have dropped. I think they dropped a little bit too far. I still think they're a really good team. And Louisville is a lot better than I think a lot of the country realizes, because they probably haven't seen them play all that much. But that game against Miami, I mean, they took it to Miami, really. Mm-hmm. They intercepted Carson Beck 4 times, maybe 5. I mean, it was a lot. Like they exposed them quite a bit. And then Georgia Tech with Haynes King and Brent Key, I just don't count them out of anything. But I'm going to say I think Georgia Tech will.
Yeah, I mean, Louisville's really come on strong here and gotten themselves in the mix. I go Georgia Tech as well. I am not the biggest believer in Virginia, and I guess a lot of people aren't either, but they just keep winning football games. Like Chandler Morris and the crew just keep winning games, and just so fascinating to see Miami 4th out of 4 here, given where they were even just like 2 weeks ago, where they would have been the easy choice to win this poll and do it running away. And you know what? Things changed, and here they are now, where they're 4th out of 4 rather than the easy first choice out of 4. And I agree with them being last in this list, but yeah, very compelling race coming down to the wire here. And again, I'm like, I think a lot of people, I'm still sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out on Virginia. But, I mean, here we are, man. It's the last month of the season, and they've lost 1 game. So they're right there.
Well, they have the toughest schedule remaining with Boston College and Pitt on the ACC schedule. Obviously, Georgia at the end, but that doesn't affect their ACC standing. But Louisville has Cal, Clemson, SMU, and Kentucky, or Cal, Clemson, SMU, and then Kentucky at the end of the year, which is not. And then Virginia has Wake, Duke, and Virginia Tech. I mean, they probably have the easiest path to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they will remain
and
a pretty strong contender.
And they beat Louisville.
Right, yeah, they had already beaten Louisville in overtime. So they got that head-to-head win. So, yeah, they're in a really, really good spot with a very favorable schedule. And one of those teams you didn't necessarily see coming or lasting and being around this long, but they're right there, man. So if you've been hesitant to give them some love, then they put themselves in a position to earn some of that and certainly get themselves into the ACC title game.
Yep, but with Georgia Tech not having to play either of them, that really throws a wrench in this whole machine of the ACC. All right, that's going to do it for us. Tomorrow, we will not be in studio. We are live from Bubba's 33 in Waco because they're going to do some stuff in here that's going to be loud. So we can't be here. We'll be in their way. That's the words they used. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be out of the way at Bubba's 33. So if you're in Waco, come and see us at Bubba's 33 tomorrow at 3 o'clock. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.